None.
All of them.
What?
Do you see?
What? Dude, the biggest issue was Al Gore conceded. What is this? After George W. Bush's 2000 victory, Al Gore pursued Florida recount litigation and conceded. That was the problem. It was stolen, and he should have never conceded. But even then, he conceded. Once the Supreme Court halted the recount in 2005, Senator Barbara Boxer and Rep. Stephanie Tubbs, Timothy Jedediah Poole, one moderate.
You have a lot of politicians on the Democrat side.
One moderate versus 20 liberals featuring Tim Pool. Now, this is amazing. This is amazing because they presented Tim Pool as a moderate. How is Tim Pool a moderate? What are we doing? If Tim Pool is a moderate, who's a radical? I just don't know. Like, Tim Pool's done a lot of election denial. Tim Pool has spent most of his career fomenting civil war or claiming that a civil war is going to happen in America. Tim Pool has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis of all different sorts. Like, do you guys notice how on the Democratic Party side, they say, I'm a radical, but the same, like, broader media permission structure declares Tim Pool to be a moderate, Charlie Kirk to be an activist? Because remember, whenever Charlie Kirk was covered, they always said conservative activist Charlie Kirk. When I'm covered in the media, whether it's a liberal outlet or a right-wing outlet, I'm called a far-left agitator, controversial streamer. How is Charlie Kirk not controversial? His worldview was unbelievably controversial. How is Charlie Kirk not controversial? How is Tim Pool a moderate? Who is deciding that Tim Pool is a moderate? The center is so arbitrary, is so ridiculous, and it's so busted. Anyway, let's
find authoritarian practices during COVID. I'm not going to support those individuals.
So, but the authoritarian practices today, you're willing to look past?
Some of them, yes.
Come on, man.
The mainstream political left commits more violence than the mainstream political right.
None of what you're saying makes any sense. It sounds like you're honestly grifting a lot.
You can say that
Let me
there's
ask you a
civil
question.
war every year and it doesn't happen. And
I
you're gonna
never
say,
said
it just
there
hasn't
was.
happened yet.
Do you want me to get you a
I'm just saying,
soapbox?
it's really
I can leave.
easy.
You want me to
It's really
go?
easy to
You want me
do
leave?
what you do.
You want me to
It's
leave?
really easy to do what you do.
Mason got him to get up and leave, which is amazing.
United States tracking towards civil war, or is America more united than it seems? Hi everyone, I'm Paris Rose, and I'll be filling in for John today. From Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded, where one brave soul faces a room full of disagreeers. Today we're debating which political party is more violent. Is authoritarianism on the rise in America? And have both parties abandoned their oath to the Constitution? I'm here with our featured guest, moderate political commentator, Tim Pool.
Hi, I'm Tim Pool. I'm the host of Timcast IRL, and today I'm surrounded by progressives. My first surrounded claim is that the mainstream left commits more violence than the mainstream right.
If you'd like to be the first debater, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Mason said the moderator was also biased as well. I don't know who this moderator is.
Timmy,
how's it going? Hey.
Great to meet you, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
There seems to be like a broader implication with your prompt that there's this domestic threat from mainstream left politicians. Like, do you really think Hillary Clinton's like leading the Vanguard Revolution Party? Like,
no.
What is your take?
When you look at the violence that we do see, I describe it as from blunt to acute, which is with the fringe extreme right, you'll see extreme mass shootings. You'll see, someone will show up.
Oh, I was right. Oh, he's doing a semantics argument, saying that the mainstream right is separate from the rest of the far-right forces that are responsible for an overwhelming amount of violence in this country. That's what it is. He does this the whole argument? That's so funny. Dog, there are left-wing forces from moderate to radical. There are right-wing forces from moderate to radical. Everybody understands that the overwhelming majority of political violence happens in the hands of the right. Okay? Specifically the far right. His sources aren't wrong. He knows that that's the case, so he's trying to frame it around mainstream. So you get bogged down arguing about what it means to be mainstream instead. This means you've lost the argument before with your premise. It's beautiful. He lost this argument before he sat down when he came to the table with the recognition that right-wing forces are far more violent in this country than left-wing forces. So we had to literally add this semantics thing to say, oh, well, the mainstream left and the mainstream right are different than the far right versus the far left. It's awesome.
and they'll unload on people, things like that. On the left, though, you'll see riots, vandalism that you don't see from the right. But the point I'm making is that when you break down the ideology that motivates individuals that commit political violence, there is more often an overlap between what the Democratic Party espouses ideologically and what we see in street-level violence, as well as maybe assassinations, versus what the Republicans would espouse.
I mean, I couldn't disagree more. What ideologies that the Democratic Party is promoting that leads to these types of violence? Anytime you see an act of violence that's typically attributed to the left, it is immediately condemned by every Democrat politician.
Indeed.
You couldn't point to one that actually endorses that. Or you have somebody like Donald Trump, who's literally the president of the United States, saying that we should call for the of congressional members who are fulfilling their civic duty and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't fulfill illegal orders if you're in the military, and Donald Trump's asking for them to be put to death. How is that not inciting to violence?
No, that's absolutely terrifying. I completely disagree with that. My point more so is that when you see, say, the George Floyd or the BLM riots, you end up with Biden and Kamala themselves promoting fundraisers for those accused of committing these crimes. During
which
these riots,
which crimes could you point to?
So in Minnesota, you had there was a firefighter who opened a sports bar. It was burned down. In fact, when the local news went to interview him about his dream bar being burnt to the ground, it was ransacked. I don't think it was burned to the ground. They while they're filming the story, there were people looting.
I think that there's absolutely a big difference between a lot of the private buildings or private enterprises that were targeted versus like public institutions like the police precinct. Like, you're somebody who, I've seen the iconography on your show. You're a big patriotic guy. You love 1776, right? That wasn't the most peaceful way that we had, criticizing our government or saying that tyranny shouldn't exist.
How long was the Revolutionary War going on before they signed the Declaration?
I will say that the police precincts, the same people who committed a brutal murder using state violence in order to justify that, I think we can understand why people would rightfully be mad without any accountability. Which political party is in control
of the police department in Minneapolis?
That is not the central. First of all, we're talking about the mainstream political left. Which politicians are endorsing that type of behavior?
Never said politicians were endorsing it.
Then what's the mainstream left?
So you have activists whose ideology aligns with politicians who are
You'd say that those
votes.
Activists identify with the Democratic Party, the
No,
ones that
I
are
would say
committing
that
violence.
the Democratic Party courts
Because let me
their
tell
vote.
you, the leftists that you could talk to, not the biggest fans of the Democratic Party.
Is the Democratic Party in favor of Black Lives Matter?
I would say yeah. I'd say even most moderates. I'd say actual
Indeed.
moderates,
Absolutely.
not right-leaning conservatives who claim to be moderates.
Were the riots
Usually
based
those
off
people
of-
also agree that police violence is something that should be discouraged.
Were the riots Black Lives Matter motivated?
They were motivated.
By Black Lives Matter. So that ideology is espoused by...
No,
so my point is
Black
this.
Lives Matter is not encouraging violence. Black Lives Matter is recognizing systemic inequality.
Never said
where
they were telling people to go be violent. I'm saying that there are violent individuals, and with the riots, a lot of them, which we've seen.
Can you tell me
how
who
about this?
Tell me who Chris Ray is. Do you know who Chris Ray is?
Explain it to me.
Well, you have a show talking about politics every day. I would think that you know. But Chris Ray was the former...
Let's not do this. If you have a point to make, let's make a point. Let's not try and play these games.
So Chris Ray was the former FBI director under Donald Trump's first term.
Yep.
He said that he even agreed with the findings from both the congressional research session that right-wing violence is way more proliferate in this country than left-wing violence.
That's not meaningful to a voter. Let me explain. The Republican Party rejects neo-Nazism, correct?
No, Donald Trump invited Nick Fuentes to have dinner with him, with Kanye West.
So tell me one politician who went out and campaigned for the neo-Nazi vote.
I'm blanking on his name, but Gozar. And,
is that a main?
Paul Gozar. And there are plenty more. Marjorie Taylor Greene, James Fishback, Paul Gozar, Elon Musk. The problem here is, like, many of these guys actually are nowhere near as hostile to Nick Fuentes' odious worldview as they claim they are. Okay?
Arizona.
Extreme view in this country?
Well, we could talk about Gozar. We could talk about Matt Gaetz. We could talk about...
Matt Gaetz is not endorsing neo-Nazism. And Donald Trump
said...
Are
you kidding me?
Nazis should be condemned entirely.
No, he's literally partnering with the America First movement. He was
America First and neo-Nazism are totally different.
Bro, so you don't think... Do you think Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi? I forgot. You've had him on your show. Oh my God, I literally forget.
I wouldn't describe Nick Fuentes as a neo-Nazi.
You don't think that Nick Fuentes celebrating Adolf Hitler is not neo-Nazi adjacent?
I think you have to be very specific on what your terms are. And so when you go to an American voter and say something like...
This is our moderate, by the way, everybody. This is our moderate.
Indeed.
Keep going.
So when you go to a regular American and ask them what is meaningful to them in terms of an election, you don't have Democrats or Republicans endorsing violence. But you also don't have... Charlie Kirk's a good example. He threw out Nick Fuentes. He threw out white identitarians, white nationalists from his events. They were not welcome. That's mainstream. You don't have riots coming from the Republican Party and the right, although you do have January 6th and things like that. When you take a look at the shootings of the Tesla facilities, the execution of Aaron Danielson, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and one of the attempted assassinations on Donald Trump, not the Pennsylvania one.
Here's the thing. Every single left movement he talks about is opposing state violence. This is the faulty standard that we on the left have to always live in. Republicans can get away with demanding more of the pre-existing state violence, whereas everything that we say in opposition to state violence can be considered totally violent. Like Black Lives Matter is a response to state violence. But because in the eyes of the broader electorate, in the eyes of like the broader American public, they see police violence as a necessary form of violence, they are it's much easier for them to turn around. It's much easier for them to turn around and look at the people responding to that police violence as the truly violent ones.
You can see the underlying ideologies overlap with the Democratic Party. When you take a look at like Nick Fuentes, he's opposed to the Republican Party. He's been actively endorsing Democrats right now.
He's been saying that the Republican Party is too left for him. It's not that he's opposed to the Republican Party in principle.
This is literally my point.
No,
Nick Fuentes comes out and says, do not vote for Trump. The mainstream Republican Party is at odds with these people.
No, again, if you're looking at all of the empirical data, the violence is way more on the right.
But
so
that's not
you
the
can say
claim.
What your feelings are. You
That's
can
not
say
my
that.
feeling nor the claim.
No,
it is not meaningful to a voter to say we don't like neo-Nazis and white supremacists because the Republican Party is not saying they want a white America.
Let's be objective of where the violence is coming from, and if it's more substantially coming from the right, that is a problem that needs to be tackled.
It's not coming from Charlie Kirk.
Okay,
who
we're not
killed?
talking about Charlie Kirk. We're talking about the overall ideologies.
In fact, we're not.
So you're telling
That's
me
not my claim.
You're telling me that the prioritization of hierarchies, both ethnic, both cultural, that is not a dangerous ideology. But something like BLM that says, hey, maybe we should take back police violence. Maybe we should have accountability for people who are in charge of certain aspects of our nation, committing violence on citizens. Those are absolutely completely different ideologies. And the fact that you're saying it is more motivating for violence, that the left wing is encouraging people to take those that are committing violence accountable.
In the last 10 years, there have been over 465 incidents of left-motivated political violence party, and there's been one on the Republican side, which is January 6th, which admittedly...
This is a very valuable technique. It's called making it up. It's awesome. It's called making shit up. It's undefeated, especially for the silly, woke, and dare I say, gay truth enjoyers. If you are a silly consensus reality enjoyer, well, this is one unlimited. This is a technique. I like to say lying is OP. It's a technique that is very overpowered. It must be nerfed.
Is particularly egregious. January 6th was. That's why we talk about blunt.
Why are you mad? It says Utu Bang Bang. Why are you mad, bro? I'm not. I think you're just incapable of understanding emotion.
Versus acute. Now, the problem is, I already know what all you're going to say. You're going to cite FBI stats and Cato, but it's not meaningful to me or any voter to tell me why white supremacists are violent, because I don't like white supremacists, nor will I vote for them. And more importantly, you bring up Nick Fuentes. He is not aligned with Republicans, and he's advocated against them.
I think for somebody who has,
don't like him.
I think for somebody who has a political show where you talk about this stuff every day, you are completely misreading the conversation when you're saying that those that are engaged in like civil disobedience are like Democrat voters. You're telling me that those people are canvassing for Democratic politicians,
Never said that.
which is
I'm
absolutely
actually,
not true.
Absolutely in favor of canvassing. I'm in favor of protesting.
I'm not saying that you're. I'm not saying that you're against that. But I'm saying
don't try and frame my argument like I'm upset with protests, because I've defended Black Lives Matter blocking streets. I've defended left-aligned progressive groups like anti-capitalist groups blocking streets and environmental groups. I stand with civil disobedience, and I've defended them every single time. If you want to block a road, there's
what
a
is it that you're saying is more violent on the left? You mentioned Black Lives Matter. You mentioned these
Let's
protests.
talk about the Tesla facilities being unloaded upon or shot up, right? These are motivated by an ideology that you will hear from Elizabeth Warren. Now, of course, she's not telling people to shoot anybody, but she is coming out saying Elon Musk is a dangerous threat to this country. And then you end up with someone going and pulling a rifle up and shooting up a Tesla.
When you understand that the right always says politicians are not responsible for individual actions. Elizabeth Warren saying, hey, maybe we should have the same sort of economic policies they have in Scandinavia.
Why was Aaron
that is not her
Danielson
encouraging, go shoot up a Tesla facility.
Why was
Where
Aaron
Donald Trump saying, let's hang the people who encouraged those in the military to actually fulfill their duties. That is completely.
My claim is not that the right is completely innocent.
He's the leader of the Republican Party, my dude.
And I hate that it's a semantics argument, and I think the best thing to do would be to tackle the form. in this circumstance, which is to say, look, I think you and I both understand that the Department of Justice has already released a comprehensive report that shows that the overwhelming majority of domestic terror incidents come from the far right. And that's precisely the reason why you're trying to get bogged down with this like semantics argument about the mainstream left being more violent than the mainstream right. There's no such thing as like the mainstream left versus the mainstream right. It's just left versus right. And if you look at it, the numbers are still not favoring your position. You can say you disavow the violence all day, every day, but there's got to be a reason why so many far-right individuals are committing these sorts of crimes with regular frequency as opposed to far-left individuals. That's it. Like, that's it. Because at the end of the day, you're basically saying Donald Trump is a less violent force in American politics than like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. And that's a psychotic position to have. So you have to like constantly turn around and say, do you think Donald Trump engages in less violent sentiment than Elizabeth Warren? Do you think Donald Trump engages in less violent sentiment than Hillary Clinton? Right? Because then it's like you just come across like a fucking psycho, right? Like, can you imagine someone being like, no, actually, you're right. The guy who says lock him up, the guy who like constantly talks about violently taking care of their political opposition, that guy is actually the real peaceful dove here. And the guy who will disavow every instance of violence across the board is actually the violent one. You look crazy. You will look crazy to people. The other side of the conversation that is frustrating, of course, as always, is that right-wingers get to traffic in violent sentiment by leaning into pre-existing modes of state violence. So Donald Trump doesn't have to say, we want a white America, even though he sometimes heavily implies it. But he doesn't have to say, we want a white America. We want to put immigrants in concentration camps. He just can say, we want ICE. We want a stronger border. But that's the same exact argument because the underlying white nativism is exactly the same. That somewhere in there is a hidden premise that brown people are not as valuable as white people are. And that's why these third world brown folk need to go back to where they came from. And in most circumstances, they're not even saying they need to go back to where they came from. They're just simply talking about sending them to a slave labor colony in El Salvador. That's usually how these arguments work. Hasan is a liberal now? Wait, what? Why? Hillary loves killing people, but not in our country? Lib alert. No, I'm talking about like domestic violence and who is responsible for domestic violence. Of course, foreign policy is uniparty. Don't be crazy. That's not what we're talking about right now, though. We're talking about the mainstream left commits more violence than the mainstream right. They're talking about domestically.
Say that these are equivocable at all is completely
false. I
false.
condemn 100% what Donald Trump said, calling for the death of those politicians.
We have to move on.
Great to meet you, Tim.
Likewise.
If you'd like to be the next debater, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
Hi.
Is she conservative, Mason, the host? I don't know why she's giving conservative aura a little bit. Am I crazy?
What I find really interesting is the whole premise of like the Occupy Wall Street movement was to protest, right?
Indeed.
It was specifically geared towards making sure that the general public was understanding the situation at the time, which had a lot to do with...
No, you're crazy. I mean, I don't know. My mistake if I'm wrong, I apologize.
Anti-capitalist motives, right? And so when we're talking about who's more violent than...
They just changed the title? What did they change it to?
Likewise.
No, it's still one moderate versus 20 liberals.
What I find really interesting, it was specifically...
What did they change it to on your end? It's probably A/B testing.
Geared towards making sure that the general public was understanding the situation at the
one moderate versus 20 liberals instead of one moderate versus 20 progressives?
Time, which had a lot to do with anti-capitalist motives, right? And so when we're talking about who's more violent than who, we have to be very specific that the violence that is recorded in the data is not ideological violence. It's not this like rhetoric. It has to be evidentiary. So if you're going to say like, oh, Black Lives Matter, and any leftists that are associated with that are automatically violent, that's just not the case.
I didn't say that.
But that's what you're implying.
No, I'm implying that When you have riots in this country, overwhelmingly, the underlying ideology aligns with the mainstream left ideology of this country.
But what you're saying in your prompt that you wrote is that the left is more violent than the right.
The mainstream political left commits more violence than the mainstream political right.
Right, the mainstream. And
Indeed.
what I'm trying to tell you is that the data is not showing that that is the actual evidence. If
It
you're
does,
talking,
actually.
no, it doesn't.
It does. My team has put together over 10 years,
75 to
465 instances.
80%.
I like that the data point behind his position is just one that he made up. I think that's cool. You know, that's kind of cool. I mean, what do you do? What do you do in that situation? Yeah, proprietary made it up index. What do you do in that situation? You're like, well, sorry.
Of violence, actual violence that is being tracked as domestic terrorism comes from the right.
I love how the left is separating itself from each other with libs, progressives, DSAs, etc. We just need to stick together. Fucking like, what the fuck, says Honey and Knife. What does that have to do with anything?
It's white supremacist groups.
And white supremacists are not in a large political party getting voted for.
Yes, they are. The
They're not.
Republican Party.
Yeah, okay, this is such a funny fact check. The 75 to 80% figure broadly is supported for fatalities from U.S. domestic terrorists since 2001, not for all instances or violence tracked as domestic terrorism. Research reviews find right-wing extremists responsibly for roughly 75 to 80% of domestic terrorism deaths. Okay, they're also responsible for a far larger number of incidents as well, so it doesn't even matter. I like that Tim Pool's fact check was, he just made this number up, and then her fact check is, yeah, she's right. She just instead should have said fatalities and not incidents. That's awesome. I mean, it is a fact check. It's valid. It's a valid fact check. I'm just trying to show you the disparity of like a person who's saying incidents instead of fatality. One could argue the fatalities is worse, but doesn't matter. And the other one, they straight up said, we have no idea where Tim Pool pulled this data from. He must have made it up. That is the world that we live in now, where the quote unquote moderate, which I think is ridiculous that they're calling him a moderate, but the quote unquote right winger moderate is making shit up. And then the liberals or the progressives are broadly trafficking in truths.
Party is very largely right wing. It is very far right.
But they're not white supremacists, nor are the Americans voting for Republican Party because they want white supremacy.
What do you think "Make America Great Again" means?
I think it means making the economy improve. I think it means building our cultural institutions. Well,
according to what time? According to what time? I'll give you that.
Probably the 80s, because Trump's an old man.
I
would say the 90s.
Seriously doubt he
90s
meant
were
the
great.
80s. He's much older than the 80s.
Well, your interpretation of Donald Trump's opinions is separate from when we see a riot, what is motivating the riot? When we
His
see
opinions
an
lead
assassination.
his policies, don't they?
Indeed, and
Wouldn't you say that's what
no one
politics
here
is
is
all
making the
about?
claim that Donald Trump is innocent, nor does he not have individuals who
But
engage
you're
in
attempting
violence
to
based
make
on
a
similar
claim
ideologies.
that his type of ideology that leads his policy is not nearly as violent as the left,
Well, how
which
many
is
riots have there been from the right?
largely anti-capitalist, which is largely anti-fascist. None of what you're saying makes any sense. It sounds like
It
you're
does.
honestly grifting a lot.
How many Republican riots have there been?
I don't know the
Is
exact
it one?
Yeah, the argument of like Republicans don't riot, the left does, is again very stupid. Well, first of all, it's not even correct. January 6th is a great example. Charlottesville is another great example. Proud Boys are another great example. So there's numerous examples of the right wing doing riots and things of that nature. Of course, Tim Pool will say those aren't mainstream, right? Which is fucking ridiculous. But the other reason why this sucks, this argument is like so stupid, is because the right already give the responsibility of enforcement and violence to the state. Even when a Democrat is in charge, it's still the type of violence that the right-wingers want more of that's happening in the country, because that's what police brutality is. Here, I'll give you a fucking example. Right-wingers love when the state brutalizes college protesters. Under the Biden administration, the Gaza protest took place. 3,654 American students on college campuses were arrested and apprehended by the state, which was controlled by a liberal Democrat. So even when the broad left, which Tim calls the mainstream left, is protesting, and some of those protests, quote unquote, turn into riots, okay, that's still the type of state violence that right-wingers love. It's just a Democrat doing it. And the same goes for ICE. What is ICE if not the exact same manifestation of right-wing violent appetite, right-wing violent desires? That's the whole point. That's the driving animus behind ICE. To make Republicans feel comfortable, to make Republicans feel like the state is doing something about these pesky migrants. It doesn't always have to be them taking up arms and going and shooting migrants, which they do. They do it all the time. So that's, why the number is also slanted in the direction of the far right or the right in general. But when they're not doing that, the state is doing it for them. He's glazing Kim Jong-un, my goat, JD Pondon.
Maybe one in
but what
January
are you
6th,
classifying
which is a
as a
bad
riot? What?
Take. Dude, the worst parts about like TikTok and the way people operate now is just there's so many fucking stupid people. Like I saw that one, there's a TikTok comment where they were like, James Fishback is a great candidate. Or like anytime there's someone that says something about me, there's like 700 comments underneath it being like, nah, this guy fucking sucks. He's actually always talking about politics and he seems so angry all the time. And it's like, that's not political commentary. That's not criticism against a thing that you disagree with that I believe. You're like an animal. You're just responding to stimuli. That makes me so sad, It makes me so sad. And it sucks. There is a real chuddification of America that's taking place right now. A lot of our youth are like this. Okay? It sucks. But so many of our youth have become complete fucking moronic chuds. A big part of the reason why is because they are apolitical. Perhaps best explained by Clavicular's famous line, politics is jester. It's jester behavior. There are a lot of people who are like, I'm apolitical, and then they don't realize that they are constantly repeating right-wing chud talking points all the time. It fucking sucks.
Because if you're
conflating
protesting with rioting, that's a very different thing.
No, we're talking specifically about people ransacking Tesla facilities, vehicles, charging stations.
You're so obsessed with the Tesla thing. Why don't we actually talk about...
I think it might be because someone took a rifle and started shooting up a building.
I don't know if Musk is like investing in your company or something, but let's like remove the Tesla out of it. That has nothing to do with what your actual prompt is saying.
No, that's actually what my claim is.
No, it sounds a lot like...
Well, then you're arguing something else.
No, you're arguing something else because
I am arguing
like you
something
went
else
from
from you.
Somebody who was doing really Wall Street to then
Which was
grifting
what?
all the way to defending far-right people. That's crazy.
What was the important work?
I love the argument, by the way. He's just like, January 6th is whatever, who cares? All of the instances of like domestic terror, like the mosque shooting that just took place a couple months ago, who cares? People were vandalizing Teslas. Somewhere out there, the dumbest guy your dumbest coworker heard that take and was like, that makes so much fucking sense, dude. That makes so much fucking sense, dude. Yeah. Millions of people actually watch this stuff. You cannot underestimate how brain dead our populace is. What is this?
Do I think Israel fucking killed Charlie Kirk? I absolutely do.
I think Israel killed Charlie Kirk to see what would happen when they killed Trump.
Do you think Trump's ear shooting was staged?
Totally.
Yeah.
But I'm saying Vance is the ultimate Palantir Israel first candidate.
Okay.
He's the clavicular of politics.
Do you think he's behind a lot of this?
I think that all the powers that be, the actual people behind the curtain, which is the tech oligarchs that are connected to Israel, the corporate establishment, are priming Vance to be the ultimate AI Israel candidate. They think Trump's sort of like a dumb old mobster uncle with like gold toilets who just like dances around. And they liked him when he had a lot of energy. But I think, before Charlie Kirk died, he was an extremely polarizing figure. You had people like Nick Fuentes and other people on the further, I guess, anti-Zionist right. being like, fuck Charlie Kirk, all Groypers go to his events, disrupt everything, like he's a bitch, nobody fucked with him, right? And then they killed him and everyone's in tears. All of his haters, Sam Hyde is crying, Nick Fuentes is crying. You got people who were shitting on this guy for fucking money every day, crying their heart out, talking about the left has gone too far, look at what the left has done, it's time to get revenge. The ultimate, almost powder keg of civil conflict happened after Charlie Kirk was killed. And beforehand, he was polarizing. So what they're doing...
Okay, here's the problem. with the exception of what they're talking about like Israel killing Charlie Kirk for sure, the rest of the analysis is actually pretty fine.
Doing now, I really believe this, is they're getting people polarized on Trump. They're getting everyone like Tucker Carlson following in lockstep to be like, Trump sucks now. Nothing that he promised came true. He was supposed to have no wars. And they're going to kill Trump when they know he's going to die within about a year.
Okay, never mind. That's okay. We're back. Okay, he sandwiched it. He sandwiched it. I should have just finished the clip. He sandwiched it. The meat and potatoes in between were valid. Like JD Vance is a Palantir blood boy, like all that stuff is correct. There's definitely a different factions within the modern Republican Party right now that are obviously vying for power. You know, they're fighting for influence, and JD Vance is obviously the torchbearer of the Palantir right.
And they're gonna have a leftist kill him. A trans leftist, maybe
They're
a black
definitely
leftist.
going to be trans, black,
We're not
leftist.
sure. The ultimate boogeyman that's going to become the symbol of the left. The left or the liberal establishment might try to like turn them into like a folk hero, and they're going to be elevated, and there's going to be a whole thing. And then Vance is going to come into power, have the ultimate crackdown on anybody that's against the system. AI data centers are going to be deployed in their full capacity for surveillance, martial law.
Is Erica Kirk joining him at the helm?
Erica Kirk might be the first lady.
Yeah, I mean, they're just fucking going crazy. They're just making shit up.
What important work?
You said I was doing
in terms of Occupy Wall Street?
Yes.
I think, you know, in terms of that movement, I thought it was it was one of the first times in our generation that we were able to see an actual organization against capitalism.
Can I ask you how old you are?
No, you cannot ask me how old
Were
I
you
am.
politically active during Occupy Wall Street?
Yes, I was.
Did you follow the news about me during Occupy Wall Street?
Not specifically.
And the news.
Why would anybody follow you, dog? I know you were there, but I mean, Jesus Christ. Wow, that is fucking ridiculous. This is a ridiculous statement to make. Oh, did you follow me?
News was that Occupy denounced the violence. I had filmed leftists deflating police tires who physically attacked me, and I was attacked by a masked individual smacking my camera out of his hand. Occupy
so this is a
Wall
personal
Street.
vendetta for you.
Then
because
gave
as
me.
for
If you're
a small
getting
group of
emotional about
people-
this and you don't want to have an argument,
I'm
that's
not gonna-
fine.
Do I look emotional, guys?
You do
I feel pretty
because
relaxed.
you don't know what happened during Occupy, and your argument is off because you don't.
This honestly sounds like
Okay,
you have
pause,
a personal vendetta
pause.
from your history
Not an argument.
that has
Here.
absolutely nothing with what you're
an
actually
argument.
prompt
You have to
is, which
pause
is
it here.
Not an
around
argument.
You have
far-right
to
people
pause.
being much more violent than the
argument.
left.
We have to pause. Love the passion, but pause. All right. If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
You got it. Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Good. I think we should just get to the heart of it. Donald Trump is a fascist. He has Nazis in his administration. His entire messaging was resonating with Nazis from the very beginning. Donald Trump, when rallying for 2024, had a massive rally in Madison Square Garden. What was the significance of that rally?
You tell me.
Yeah, it's the same place, same date as the Nazis in the 1940s. Literally. Donald Trump said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of America and their environment. Who also said that?
You tell me.
Hitler. Literally. Donald Trump has openly said things as dog whistles. So you may say that it's not mainstream, but the entire ideology of the right speaks to those people.
Let me ask you, what do you mean by fascist?
Oh, God. Okay. All right, let's see.
Far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalistic, 14 tenets of fascism,
I mean,
all that.
but there's a specific definition of fascist. Do you just mean that he's an authoritarian?
No, I mean that he meets all 14 tenets of fascism.
Which is what?
You want to go through all 14 points?
I don't. I'm trying to understand your argument. But so my point largely is we see people say Trump is a fascist, but there's, you know, if you go to an academic and you look at fascism, say Italy, there's a common
Mussolini.
argument that you have the merger of corporation and state as the defining element of what fascism is. I would
There's
define.
different forms of fascism. Right.
No. Yes, Pallinism is correct. And if you want to go down into it, if you want to actually pick it apart, it's basically an in-group, out-group dynamic that you set with a national mythos surrounding it, where the superior in-group race or religion or ethnic background is elevated to a higher state and is constantly in battle and trying to seek out the expulsion of the outer group, the lesser races, the lesser ethnicities, the lesser nationalities. That's all it is. And absolutely, Donald Trump fits this stereotype, this ideological predisposition. And yes, palingenetic ultranationalism is even the liberal definition. I know, it is. It is. It's not the worst one, though. I think palingenetic ultranationalism isn't the worst definition. That's why I like that one as opposed to all the other ones, because all the other ones literally could be any government that's doing government things. Like the one where it's like, eradicating or like state control over mixed markets or whatever, and authoritarianism, like that doesn't mean anything. You can just say that for any country on the planet. Also, the current administration is the merger of state and corporate power. So even if, no, I hate that one. Yeah, I hate the unholy merger shit. I hate that one because that's literally, first of all, that's partially that is an anti-communist way to talk about fascism. That's a liberal way to talk about fascism, specifically so that you oppose communism, and not only that, but also oppose any degree of socialization, right? Because you can literally make that argument that like Norway is a fascist country. Okay, Norway is a fascist country. Why? Because they've nationalized their extraction industry. I hate that. And it is a not so subtle way that liberals try to otherize socialism, communism, and then put them under the fascism bracket. But yes, technically, because of the Trump administration's actions against Intel, for example, you could literally say that. Even under Tim's definition, you could say that Donald Trump is still a fascist. But again, it doesn't matter because that has nothing to do with fascism.
Well, and that's the point. That's
The
why
actual premise is the authoritarian. Donald Trump is absolutely a fascist. He's, like I said, he has Nazis in his administration. I think we're shifting. Pete Hegseth.
How is Hegseth
He literally has a proud Nazi tattoo on his chest.
He does not.
He has a Jerusalem cross, which is a very common Nazi dog whistle. The idea that it's not a fucking Nazi tattoo is silly. What's next? Are you going to say Grant Plattner only had a skull on his chest? Get the fuck out of here. He had such... Dude, you want to know something funny? And I brought this up in the past about Grant Plattner, but like Pete Hegseth is Grant Plattner. Okay? Pete Hegseth is literally Grant Plattner. To give you another testament to how busted this system is, the fucking Secretary of Defense, now Secretary of War, is the same as Grant Plattner, and Grant Plattner won the primary, and we immediately were like, you gotta get the fuck out of here, big dog. Meanwhile, Republicans go, oh, drunk rapists with Nazi tattoos? Step right up. This also, once again, is what fucking makes me so angry about media and mainstream media and where they shift their focus on. I despise it. Like how much coverage was around Grant Plattner, which for the record, I'm not even saying is invalid, versus how much coverage still currently exists for Pete Hegseth being the exact same guy who's the fucking Secretary of War. Oh my God. This is what I'm talking about with fucking liberals, man. Liberals, you do not know how to focus up. You are always at the mercy of reactionaries, and they play you like a fiddle. Okay? Well, you are wrong, Hasan. They are not the same.
Stephen Miller is absolutely a Nazi. Stephen
Hegseth
Miller
does not have a Nazi tattoo on his chest.
Yeah.
No, he does not. He has a
chest?
Catholic cross on his chest.
Oh, he says Stephen Miller.
Cool.
I mean, guys, look, I went to Catholic school when I was little. I left in fifth grade.
So
Pete Hegseth is
Yeah, by the way, he's a dropout. He didn't even go to high school.
not a Nazi.
Yeah, okay, cool. Question for you. When Donald Trump and his administration specifically actually implement policies that go at the heart of what Nazis want,
Which
right?
is?
Targeting.
Which is what?
The first group of people they target was the transgender community. Same things in Nazi. The actual Nazis specifically targeted people that weren't like them. There's been a persistent and consistent attack on undocumented immigrants, black people, women, anyone that's not a straight white male in America.
My principal claim is not that Donald Trump is innocent, nor perfect, nor good. My claim is that when you look at street-level violence, domestic terror, et cetera, you'll find more violence coming from the mainstream left as opposed to the mainstream right.
Sure.
Because I do think it's fair to point out white supremacists are violent. They do evil and horrible things.
Yeah, I wanted to get
and we all condemn that.
The white supremacists are a part of the mainstream right.
But they're not.
They literally are.
The's no circumstance
All right,
where
we're
you
gonna
can go
pause
on
here.
TV.
Thank you. You can return to your seat. You've been voted out.
Nice meeting you.
All right, if you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going, Tim?
That was an easy grab. You're right there.
So the first thing I'll say is I think it's a bit disingenuous to characterize all of the property damage committed during BLM as left-wing violence, because there are going to be rogue opportunists.
Agreed.
Opportunists during the biggest civil rights protests in American history. That's first and foremost. The second thing I would like to say is I don't think it makes sense to confine political violence strictly in the context of individuals acting with political motive violently. I think it ignores institutional violence. Theoretically, you could say the 1960s civil rights movement was more violent than the counter-protesters, but obviously the institutional violence of segregation.
I completely agree.
Right. So, so what I would say is that
Wait, so then you agree with the institutional violence of police brutality, specifically the disproportionate targeting of black communities, is far worse than the actual negative consequences of said institutional violence that unfolded in largely peaceful protests, some of which actually escalated in the hands of the police into riots.
the Republican Party is, and the mainstream political right is far more.
Yeah, counter protests were definitely more violent as well during that period. The KKK killed hundreds of people, and so did the police. But then you also had this goes back to the Hamas versus Israel equation as well. The standard of violence is always in the hands of the powerful entity, right? The colonial occupant, or in this case, the American state. So if the American state is more violent, then it's retaliation. The retaliatory forces are going to be just as violent in retaliation to the state violence. So the police were far more violent. The Klan was far more violent. And that's why the Black Panthers would also sometimes, or other, revolutionary activists would sometimes literally fucking get into shootouts.
Violent because they support.
But once again, it's never as violent. For the record, it's never as violent as the state because the state maintains a monopoly on violence, and therefore the retaliatory forces can only try to match the standard of violence, but never actually match the standard of violence.
ICE ripping and separating families from one another, even from people who have no criminal background. ICE deaths under ICE custody has skyrocketed, even as a matter of
absolutely.
war abroad, etc. But
domestic, I'd love to talk the war stuff. I'm a big foreign policy guy, but domestically, did this not happen during?
No, he's not, dude. Ask him about Russia. Yeah, he's a big foreign policy guy. Ukraine is the enemy of mankind. It's my favorite clip of all time, dude.
And they know it, but I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country.
Ukraine is the enemy of this country.
Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now.
One of the greatest enemies of our nation. The very fact that he still has like any viability in the conservative movement spells trouble for like our literacy rates, spells trouble for where we are in political discourse in general. Also, the other side of this story is, of course, the fact that so many Democrats unironically think that I do this, but for Russia and for Cuba and for China. It's incredible. Like, this guy literally got popped by the FBI, got caught by the FBI. Our Department of Justice found this motherfucker getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from the Russian government to do pro-Russia, anti-Ukraine propaganda, and he still gets called a moderate on Jubilee. Was it only 100K?
Now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong, I know. You've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for
Oh God, he made so much money.
Barack Obama's administration.
It did, but not to the same extent.
Agreed.
100K an episode? Jesus.
Barack Obama was criticized for it by who? The political left.
Agreed.
Right.
So my point is not to say, again, that there's no violence on the right, and I think the institutional argument is actually a good one. However, my view largely is when you look at Occupy Wall Street, for which I was there and I watched police instigate fights, or when I was on the ground during the protests on West Florissant Avenue.
Bro, Russia just wants boost, unbiased, and neutral voices. Stop hating. True.
And I saw police throw a flashbang grenade at protesters.
How the fuck was that not considered treason? Like, that is pretty crazy. Like, can you, dude, I would literally be thrown in. If I did what Tim Pool did, but for China, okay, in the way that like some of these liberals claim I do, I would be under the, Democrats would throw me in prison. It wouldn't even be Republicans. They would kill me. They would Gaddafi my ass. Like, it's kind of crazy. It is kind of wild that he can just operate as a state asset for the foreign adversary, Russian state. God, Republicans get to do whatever they want in this country, man. How does that not piss off everyone all the time? How does that not frustrate people all the damn time, dude? It blows my fucking mind. The hypocrisy is endless.
Who are not doing anything violent. The issue is these police are under Democrat administration still, where their chiefs are often appointed by Democrat politicians. So again, I understand the left.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking of when I said political TikTok is so much worse than Twitter. TikTok politics might be a genuine mental illness. This is why we need James Fishback for president or Dean Withers. And it's James Fishback doing the Nick Fuentes thing. Oh, God, TikTok politics, man.
And progressives.
That to me is also a little disingenuous because it's not as though the police, as a matter of its institution, is.
Dean wouldn't be the worst president. Dog, he's like 23. Like, and also, again, the point is that these people only see what they see in front of them and have no real imagination, no understanding of the political realities that are unfolding. That's the problem. That's the argument.
Is a left-wing institution.
No, it's in fact,
usually the police are protecting and are on the other side
of
left-wing
protesters. If you want to make the argument that ICE under Trump, I'll make the argument of police under the Democrats.
Sir, well, I don't know.
They'd bury you under the jail. Felix said IRGC should have an act blue on the latest Chapo. I know, that was really funny. I mean, he's not wrong when he says the IRGC is the strongest like defender of liberalism and the strongest defender of the strongest like opposer, the strongest opponent of Trumpism is the IRGC currently. It's the only game in town, really. And I guess maybe to a certain degree, so is the CPC. Although they just kind of let Trump do whatever the fuck he wants for the most part.
Well,
which is it? Does law enforcement defer to their politicians or not?
It depends. Because ICE is an executive agency, they do.
And the police department in Minneapolis is under the Democrats, yes.
Right,
and we all agree that there's problems there.
But they're criticized and often on the other end of left-wing protesters. So, for instance, the protests against ICE here in Los Angeles, it's usually against left-wing. So, what is it? Left-on-left violence? Is that what you're claiming?
Sometimes, yes, absolutely.
You think police protesting against or committing violence against left-wing protesters? It's left-on-left violence, really?
Yes.
I think that's
well, I guess, what can I say? I mean, Tim Pool is now utilizing a second technique, also undefeated, also very valuable. It first was lying as OP. The second one is just be a dumbass. Okay, just being an overall dumbass. Because if you keep them guessing and they can never guess your next move, they can't really have a normal conversation with you because you can just say insane things like that. And you're just like, what the fuck? What? Yes, historically, police brutality is left violence. So police brutality against Black Lives Matter protesters is left on left violence.
Ridiculous and absurd.
The police who live in these cities tend to be more moderate, but they're not.
Literally not true. Literally not true. 86% of cops voted for Donald Trump over Hillary Rodham Clinton. There's never been a moment where police, as an institution, has not overwhelmingly voted for the Republicans. That is the most insane thing he's ever said. I don't really care about like the partisan dynamic here in any way, shape, or form. Even if they were fucking liberals and Democrats or whatever, they would still be cops at the end of the day. But the idea that cops in fucking blue cities who famously don't live in the cities anyway. Does Tim Pool know anything? Does this man know anything? Throughout the history, there's only been one leftist cop, and he was in the DSA cop, and that's it. And okay, first of all, cops famously don't live in the jurisdictions that they work in. Okay, that's, famously, that is a big problem. As a matter of fact, that's kind of like one of the points for community policing is like, oh, hire from the actual community. I guess the only time where police violence has turned into like a leftist violence that you can point to is Chris Dorner. That's it. No, Dorner was not the DSA cop.
Are conservatives.
But is the institution is policing as an institution
particularly
a left-wing institution?
In New York, well, I define a left-wing institution.
Exactly.
What I would say is
exactly.
Democrat politicians are the ones appointing these police chiefs and these administrations who are enacting these policies.
But are they?
So when you're voting for someone into office, this is not conservatives doing it. It's not mainstream right-wingers putting in police that beat protesters.
But who politically supports the police as a matter of their rhetoric and ideology?
Indeed,
the right or the left?
The right. But the right,
so
the right
then
doesn't live in these places.
Yeah, but
nor do they appoint these people.
Sure, but
don't tell me that ICE under Donald Trump, but not police under Democratic politicians.
Hold on. The left does.
No, ICE, even under liberal administrations, is still a manifestation of right-wing forms of violence. But it's state violence anyway. We're not talking about, when we talk about violence, are we talking about my understanding of violence, which also is state violence? We can even talk about it as the structural forms of violence. Or are we talking about what people consider to be violence, which is non-state actors? If we're talking about non-state actors, you're wrong. Mainstream left commits more violence than mainstream right. It's just bullshit. It's completely fucking bullshit. Okay? If we're talking about state violence, however, state violence is a manifestation of right-wing forces. Unless you think like, I don't know, any kind of enforcement action against like anti-vaxxers is considered left-wing violence. Maybe that. Like I don't know. His understanding of violence is all over the place. It's very strange. Like Tim Pool's doing peep the badge. It says People's Police. When under libtarded administrations, the cops point to their badge and go, see, it says People's Police, actually. Peep the badge.
doesn't appoint.
I'm brutalizing you, but leftistly.
Protesters who commit random acts of violence
completely
against
agree.
property.
That's not my argument.
I know. But earlier you were making the case that it's the ideology that motivates what these rioters are doing, and that's the reason why the left is ultimately responsible.
What I would say is the underlying ideology is overlapping with the Democratic Party.
Sure. And so what I'm saying is that if you want to be consistent, the underlying ideology that supports the police and as a matter of institution, and when the police are cracking down on left-wing protesters, that's overwhelmingly on the side of conservatives.
Except they're not in power in these places, and you're applying a locality to the nation. Which doesn't make sense.
They may not be like technically.
I mean,
police are not motivated by the Republican Party to go out under a Democratic mayor to arrest protesters.
The problem is that the police is still, as a matter of institution, is more of a right-wing institution than a left-wing
Certainly,
one.
even
they're
in
usually
Democratic
on the other
cities.
side of.
But the point is, a police officer who
protesters.
goes out in New York and arrests a protester does so at the behest of a Democratic politician.
I don't
Pause.
think
It's true.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please. All right. If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, young man? Listen.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been young for a minute.
Now, slow down with that. Listen,
all
I think it's really quick. The I condemn is a really cheap cop-out that's not going to work.
It's not an argument.
Because the people around us are not low IQ, like your average viewer. It's important to recognize.
Make an argument.
So I'm about to.
You don't have one? Is that it? If you want to be insults, we can go for insults and
I'm about to.
We can rap.
I'm about to.
You want to rap?
Just stop delaying my time. So it's important to recognize that simply I condemn is not sufficient when the Republican Party has created a permission structure for individuals to go out and do violence
like what?
against, I'm about to tell you, with impunity. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a good example.
Law enforcement.
The Trump administration, they
Through an
violated,
electoral process.
they lost in the courts 10,000 times, right?
That's not true.
It is true. Politico actually released a
10,000
report on it.
times.
Yeah, they lost 10,000
I'm
times
sure it
in
would
the
be
last
like
year.
10,000
They murdered
in 3.
numerous American citizens. And guess what happened to the individuals that carried out those killings? What happened to them?
What happened to them?
Have they been prosecuted? Any investigations? Do you know?
I believe they have not.
Why? It's almost as if when you commit violence,
You're wrong.
You're going to be protected. That's what's going on. That's why Kristi Noem went out and said that Alex Preddy was a domestic terrorist. That's why Stephen Miller said the same thing. And everybody in the entire Republican Party apparatus is echoing those talking points. Because whenever there's violence...
Yeah, Tim Pool was also cheering Renee Good's death. This is one of the first instances where this dumb fuck liberal guy, Joshua Reed, Eagle actually brings up a good point here. Okay, let's take a look at how Tim Pool responded to Renee Good's murder.
First of all, when these people come out and go, Tim's a bootlicker for defending us, I'm like, no, you misunderstand. It's my boots. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please go out and enforce the law. And anybody else who's cheering for...
Moderate, by the way. I love moderation in my politics. Okay. I love moderation. That's like, bro, that's calling me a moderate. Okay. Like, I know I'm not a moderate, right? I'm nowhere near in terms of there's no moral equivalence with what I speak on and what he speaks on and what he defends, of course. Having said that, I would recognize that I'm not moderate, but neither is Tim. Moderate under what standard? He's moderate for 1938 Nazi Germany, I guess. What the fuck? This is why moderation is such a frustrating, constantly shifting target. It's just so annoying. People say, I'm a moderate.
Or who voted for it too? We're all wearing the boots. You're the one crying. You're the one saying, you're coming.
By the way, this perfectly identifies the insecurity in fascist movements, both historically and in contemporary fascism. It's the idea that the state enforcement and the state violence is somehow actually making you feel powerful because the state is taking care of your enemies, your ideological enemies, the enemies that you've invented in your mind. It literally is a power cuck fantasy. Okay. It comes with the recognition that you are powerless. It comes with the recognition that you know you're a fucking loser and that you have no power in this process whatsoever. So from your perspective, you're like, well, at least the state is doing something. Hasan, you are a moderate, and not in a bad way. You're a moderate, Hasan, just not in America. I mean, I'm talking about American politics. I get what you're saying, but
They don't condemn it. They condone it. They congratulate it, and they pardon it.
Law enforcement, duly elected by a population that voted in plurality for ICE to go out and engage in these
Kill
behaviors.
American citizens?
Which sometimes, yes, absolutely. And
They voted for ICE to kill American citizens, really?
yes. Do you?
The average Republican, I don't think they're that crazy.
Who said the average Republican would vote? But do you not believe that there are people in this country that would vote for ICE to harm people? Is that
Is this your argument?
Do you believe?
This is terrible, Tim.
So you think not a single person in this country?
wait, why would he? Oh my God. Why would he lean into that? He said, yeah, me and my crew, we're fucking crazy. We voted for this awful shit. I mean, I guess he's not wrong. It's fucking KFC double down time, baby. He just said, fuck it. Yep.
Country wants to harm
What's
illegal
the
immigrants.
relevance? We're talking about the fact that there is a top like Donald Trump.
Can I ask you the question
to
again?
Justify
Can you answer
murder
the question?
and allow it to happen, foment violence in this country?
Can you answer
and
the
you're running
question?
cover for it as a moderate.
Actually, you just did.
No, I didn't.
See, I'm
Actually,
pointing out.
ICE violence. You're saying that people vote for it or whatever.
You don't think that there are white supremacists voting for ICE to go and harm migrants?
Are you saying that white supremacists voted for Donald Trump so they could kill migrants?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good to know that white supremacists make up part of the Republican Party and Donald Trump's doing their bidding.
Yes, I certainly believe they do.
Okay.
The initial claim that I'm making is that there is absolutely violence on the right. I already agree with one of the previous debaters that there's institutional violence from the right as well. The best argument against my claim actually is that the right, when they get levers of power, will use law enforcement as their vehicle for the violence that they want to engage in. Those things are all fair. My point is that we are not
That's
seeing...
a nice, long, drawn-out concession. Thank you for...
But it's not a concession because maybe we agree...
Okay, my controversial take, and no disrespect to even Mason as well, but the first 25 minutes, even for such a faulty premise, wasn't as much of a ritualistic humiliation for Tim Pool as I wanted it to be. I'm not going to lie. Like, this section was kind of ass. Because it was mostly just like semantics about mainstream versus non-mainstream. Because like the facts are not on his side. I think that even Republicans that watch this, their takeaway won't be that Tim Pool got fucking destroyed in the first 25 minutes. But let's wait and let's see where this goes.
Oh, okay.
See, I think...
Well, didn't you say the modern political left commits more violence than modern political right? So now you're saying...
Just because there are riots coming from the left does not mean they're morally right or wrong, or does not mean the right is better or worse. This is a statement about volume of violence that we see and a meaningful issue to a voter as to what is the underlying motivation that we see pushing violence.
Yeah. If I go on Jube, I'm going to be like, you have to put me down as a moderate. Yeah. The title is Moderate versus 20 Hogs. Give me the hoggiest of hogs. Moderate versus 20 chuds.
In this country. So when you have ICE going out and engaging in these actions,
This is like a Clarence Thomas level of interpretation with that prompt. That is not what you're saying.
I don't know why you're trying so hard to disagree when we actually have common ground.
Pause, we are out of time. Thank you.
Nicotine, the ultimate biohacker's secret weapon, has made a wild comeback.
Founded claim is that the Democratic Party has embraced authoritarianism.
Let me guess. COVID, right? These guys have one thing, and that's COVID. From the American perspective, and I guess there's a little bit of truth to this, right? All government functions are authoritarian. Depending on how far down the right-wing rabbit hole you are, you even say taxation is theft, for example, right? Libertarians think that taxation is theft, and that the government is authoritarian and forcing you to pay taxes, stealing money from you at gunpoint. If you don't pay for it, you go to prison. And I guess it's technically not wrong, okay, because it goes in either direction. Authority is a normal and necessary function of governance, okay? It is. My argument, and I think the socialist argument in general on authority, the socialist position on authority is that the government should play the role of authority. However, the goals should be to create the most productive society, create the best possible society. I can't even talk. Create the best possible society, as in generate the best possible outcomes. Okay. So yeah, authority, simply put, is an enforcement of a certain set of laws, rules, regulations, restrictions that everybody has decided are apt, they're adequate, they're necessary. Okay. So technically, you could fucking say seatbelts are authoritarian. Drunk driving laws are authoritarian. For pedophiles, the age of consent laws are authoritarian, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And for Tim Pool, I suspect he's going to say COVID restrictions were authoritarian, right? That's what he's going to say.
If you'd like to be the first debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
That was fast. Nice to meet you. Let's start off not by, oh God, don't make me defend Republicans, but let's go.
All right, let's talk about authoritarianism.
Yeah.
What does an authoritarian government do?
So it's typically, and particularly in my claim, it's a reference to suppression of dissent, suppression of speech, control of voting, or manipulation of voting.
Wait, dog, you chose the worst prompt for this. That he's just describing what the Republicans are doing currently. What the fuck? He's just like, my definition of authoritarianism is actually what Trump is doing currently, down to a T. And I really like it when Trump is doing it, but I hated it when the Democrats were doing it.
For the power.
Because what did the Democrats do? Joe Biden made every, vaccine truther get banned off Facebook. That's authoritarianism. When Donald Trump is actively trying to create the new McCarthy trials, that's actually freedom. I voted for this. I like it. I'm wearing the boot.
For the, let's just call it control by a particular group of politically or...
Let's take those claims one at a time.
Yeah.
First, on suppression of speech.
Indeed.
Just a few hours ago today, Trump subpoenaed reporters for trying to report accurate information on the war in Iran.
Wow,
he said,
that's terrible.
No, that can't happen.
Awful.
That's way more authoritarian than what we're seeing on the left here.
Well, I mean, it's hard to quantify what is more or less authoritarian, but certainly bad when President Trump is trying to stifle speech.
Wait, really? What's more authoritarian, America or China? What's more authoritarian, North Korea or the United States of America? What do you mean? It's hard to quantify. It's your fucking prompt. What do you mean it's hard to quantify what's more authoritarian? Why is that your prompt?
Wait, can you give any example of Biden doing anything even comparable to that?
I can. We can start with Alex Berenson, who is currently in a lawsuit because the Biden administration personally went to social media platforms using his name to be suspended for his reporting on COVID vaccination and mandates.
Okay. At a top level, though, who's doing the majority of the actual suppression of speech here?
I don't really have good words for the Republican Party, to be honest. My issue with this debate is
yeah, he's like, I'm a moderate. I don't have enough good words for the Republican Party. As a moderate, I happen to agree with the Republicans 99.9% of the time. And that 0.1% of the time, I still agree with them, but I act like I don't.
In fact, what we're seeing right now is that I'll make a claim about the Democratic Party, which has done awful things, and the immediate response is, but the Republicans.
Here's the thing.
And I don't like Republicans.
Here's the thing. we live in a two-party system.
Dog, he said Trump was going to win a 49-state landslide. What are you talking about? Who is this for? Wait, is there a single person on the planet who thinks Tim Pool is like a moderate or a hater of the Republican Party? Is there anyone out there who actually believes that? Is there anyone in his audience that believes that? At this point, you can't climb back onto the fence, man. Yes, I've met them. Wait, what? Really? There are people who, no, they're right-wingers and they like the idea of someone who is not always someone who is fair and balanced, who defends the Republicans. But they still understand that he's always defending the Republicans. Oh my God. People can't be that fucking stupid, right? Oh my God. I guess they are. We have a real crisis of stupids.
Correct.
Right? We can have this great grift of like, oh, well, the Democrats.
Yes, the guy who watched Roach at my work. Wait, does the guy who watched Roach also think Asmund Roach is a moderate? So the moderate position is murdering immigrant children? Like your coworker watches a guy who says like Nick Fuentes has good ideas, a guy who says like everything Trump has done is fucking spectacular, a guy who is demanding that Border Patrol murder migrant children. That guy is a moderate? Do you really believe that? Come on. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of do. Yeah, because people are really stupid, bro. People are fucking dumb as shit. I just don't even know what would be more right-wing than that. Like a demand to murder children in the hands of law enforcement. Like if you consider that people are not that bad, think of the average person. I do. I meet the average person all the time, but sometimes I also think about like how dumb the average person is. And I think maybe as long as someone says they're a moderate, people don't really think beyond that, where they go, look at this moderate guy. Like I do legitimately believe that if I presented myself as moderate all the time and I said I'm moderate, but then advocated for fucking whatever I'm advocating for currently, I probably would have a bigger, more charitable audience of like stupid people who would be like, what do you mean he's just moderate? He just wants healthcare. That seems like a moderate position. Like actually, I think like a lot of political normies, I think genuinely think that like being apolitical is like the highest state of being. Like, oh, I'm too smart for politics. It's the rat race. Both sides don't give a shit. Like if I started off with I'm a moderate and that's the reason why I believe in higher degrees of socialization for, and the government function for taking over for healthcare and abolishing profiteering in certain avenues. Like and I just kept saying I'm a moderate. Like people, like whenever people say like, oh, dude, you're a socialist, I'd be like, no, I'm a moderate. I don't agree with socialists at all. I'm a moderate.
Democrats are bad, but and the Republicans, they might be worse, but the Democrats are still bad. But the option is between Democrats or Republicans.
Yes.
So if Republicans are worse, it doesn't really matter if Democrats are slightly bad.
I think Democrats are worse.
We don't love Democrats, but we feel that Republicans are way worse when they institute these far more authoritarian policies.
It's hard to quantify more. The question is, does it suppress speech? And I certainly think Donald Trump has taken actions.
Let's look at human lives. If we want to do like a quantification here, let's look at ICE. 3 American citizens have been killed by ICE. That's way more than the number of American citizens killed by immigration enforcement under, say, Obama.
But it's way less than the amount of American citizens killed by Barack Obama.
No,
it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Look. I don't want to be disrespectful, but one of the biggest issues to me is the extrajudicial assassination of Abdurrahman al-Awlaki by the Obama administration. And this is what, early on in my life, when I was very anti-war, very lefty, still anti-war, and voted for Barack Obama, and then he murdered.
Are you in favor of the war in Iran?
Absolutely not. And Barack Obama killed a 16-year-old American citizen who was at a civilian restaurant in Yemen.
We can play
These are
this
all
game.
bad
we can
things.
be like, oh, well, both parties are pretty bad. But like,
Indeed.
we have to, when they go to the ballot office, when I go to the ballot office as a voter, I have to actually put in a vote. I have to decide.
I just don't believe that Tim Pool is anti-war. I'm sorry. Like, is Tim Pool anti-Iran war? He's just saying it, right? Like, I don't watch Tim Pool, so I don't know. But he's been so pro-Israel, I doubt that he's anti-Iran war, right? Never mind. First thing that comes up is Media Matter. Way back in March, Tim Pool says the Iran war looks to be a massive blunder and that the facts are being reported does not bode well for Donald Trump. And this is looking to be a massive, massive mistake. I think he's pro Yemen. I think he's all for Yemen because he's pro Russia. No. The Barack Obama committed an extrajudicial assassination of an American citizen is the classic like fake anti-dumb war. Remember, they always say anti-dumb war Republican. Okay? It's also obviously anti-Obama, so that's a big one too. It's anti-Obama. That's a good way to like shit on Obama. So there's that element of this as well. These guys always say, "Oh, I am anti-dumb war." Okay, whenever someone says like whenever someone refuses to say they're anti-war, but instead says they're anti-dumb wars, just understand that they're pro-war. They're just considering whatever war that we're currently engaging in to be a dumb one.
A Democrat or Republican, or throw my vote away and vote for some third party.
A libertarian.
Right? If I'm picking between those and there's one
He's
candidate.
a libertarian who actually celebrated the assassination of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. So that doesn't really mean anything.
Who just brought us into a war in Iran is causing this massive conflict, tons of human suffering. That's foreign. That's foreign policy. Domestically, we see ICE attacks on American citizens. We see 56 people dying in ICE detention camps in just a singular year. You compare that to under Obama, the deporter-in-chief. Across
Indeed.
8 years, 52 people died. Way, way, way fewer. What we're seeing is dangerous conditions domestically. Way more people are dying. Right? We have a lot of this like qualitative discussion. You bring up a lot of anecdotes. But if you actually like quantify the number of deaths that are occurring through these authoritarian mechanisms, it's very, very clear that when I vote, I'm choosing the lesser of two evils and voting Democrat.
Let's talk about a few structures of authoritarianism. We'll go with 2016. And you brought up Donald Trump subpoenaing these journalists, so
Yeah.
we'll get broad on this one. In 2016, Gizmodo published an article that Facebook had been suppressing news and information from conservative outlets.
I think it was The Verge. It wasn't even Gizmodo, but it doesn't matter. Oh my God, I can't believe he's bringing this back up. I cannot believe it. It's not COVID. No, this is predating COVID. Oh my God, this is right in my wheelhouse. I hate this so much. I hate this so much. First of all, that wasn't government authoritarianism. That was tech platforms trying to be woke. And secondly, what's crazy about that information was that the algorithm still favored right-wing commentary. Okay. And not only that, but because Republicans made such a big deal about this, I was there. Okay. I was literally there. I was a political commentator. I was on Facebook. Okay. So I remember this intimately. Okay. I remember this vividly. I was fucking there. Republicans brought tech CEOs and everybody else in front of Congress. Okay. And they bullied them in the same way that under the Biden administration, they had brought forward, Gay and all these other presidents of colleges to bully them and badger them over the head with like fucking anti-Semitism allegations because they weren't sufficiently pro-Israel on the campuses. So basically, they did the same exact thing. That's what the Republicans did back then. And what they got out of that was incredible. They created a board at Facebook for moderation that was like all Heritage Foundation guys. Okay. And Facebook was already slanted to the right. Facebook was already slanted to the right in 2016. And after that point, their moderation boards were comprised entirely of right-wingers. And then it exploded. Right-wing sentiment exploded on Facebook. It might have played a formative role in QAnon exploding amongst the boomers, okay? So the idea that Facebook was doing woke by force in an authoritarian manner because the Obama administration had demanded them to do so is fucking bullshit.
This is Gizmodo. They're a progressive outlet. In fact, I worked for the company that owned them, and I was a Bernie supporter in 2016. And so agreeing with this reporting and knowing the reporters behind it, I reported this. NBC News, all of these major institutions then claimed I was a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Here's the thing.
Let me finish. For claiming that these things were happening that they reported on. Then what we learned is that under Obama, under Obama and under Biden, and don't get me
wrong. No, this is not Cambridge Analytica, chatters. This is not Cambridge Analytica. That came after. This is like around the same time. I guess it like predates Cambridge Analytica.
wrong, this was under Trump as well. There was an active effort from the FBI. They were given a backdoor access to Twitter and Facebook to remove content that they thought objectionable to the government, and it was not done at the behest of Trump or for his benefit, but to the benefit of those who had been defending him in the press. So notably myself, who was calling out these censorship practices, I was falsely slandered and maligned by the media over this.
Thank you, yes.
Now, when you say that Donald Trump is mad at them, I agree, subpoenaing journalists depending on the issue can be bad. But to see that from Obama through
depending on the issue, there's valid reasons to subpoena journalists, says Tim Pool. Got it. Okay.
Trump and into Biden, they were actively given access. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Tim,
it's a violation of the First Amendment.
We're missing something really important. We're lumping together all of these different types of sort of suppression of speech, but there's a fundamental difference. When we see like left-leaning suppression of speech, often that happens from like a bottom up, where you see some company taking an action.
No, I gave you a specific example of the Biden administration going to a major big tech company, giving them specific instructions to remove people who are saying naughty words.
We saw that in the context of COVID, where vaccinations was really, really important. In fact,
That's
800,000
authoritarianism.
lives were saved by vaccines. We have a really strong
You can give me
historical
every
precedent.
reason for why you want to be an authoritarian. They always have a reason, and saving lives is always one of them.
There's a fundamental difference between suppressing free speech on, say, the war in Iran, where there's really bad stuff going on and we need to talk about it, and, say, spreading vaccine misinformation. In the U.S., we've had really long
You have a
precedent.
moral
Look at
opinion
Schneck versus
on the
United
differences of
States,
importance, and
right?
that's fine.
Clear and present danger test has
But
been
we're
well
talking
established.
about authoritarianism has many different reasons. Did you think that all the tyrants of the world never gave a reason as to why they needed absolute authority? They always did. And they always do. And even today, it's the case, whether it's Trump or anybody else.
Yeah, and when Trump gives a reason, I agree with it. I'm Tim Pool, and I agree with Trump's reasons for authoritarianism. And also at the same, dude, what the fuck is this conversation? Like, Tim Pool is literally saying peak authoritarianism is when, woke Facebook or tech companies were taking their notes from epidemiologists in the Biden administration during the peak of like vaccine hesitancy campaigns that America was literally actually conducting in places like the Philippines, ironically enough. But we're so fucking stupid that we ended up making ourselves vaccine hesitant as well, which was a huge problem. It's a national security concern. It's obviously an issue for the economy. Of course, the government is going to have to try to, deal with that somehow. And we are still forced to deal with it. Ironically enough, the vaccine hesitancy in America is abysmal. It's crazy. We got old ass diseases that were eradicated coming back, dude. Anyway, I find that really, really annoying that like you're saying that's peak authoritarianism, but like what Donald Trump is doing right now is not, What Donald Trump is doing right now is valid. It's nowhere near as damaging or devastating as what Biden did with the Facebook thing.
So when Biden's administration said, because COVID misinformation kills, we will silence you, that's authoritarianism. You can argue that you agree with it, but it still is authoritarianism. How about we can use Cuomo in New York as an example? He shut down churches in violation of the First Amendment, and when he was sued and lost, he issued
I knew it. It was all COVID.
A secondary executive order changing the words to keep the churches closed. That is authoritarianism. And you right now defending it is my point. I have no problem saying Trump should not go after journalists, but you seem to have a problem saying the Democratic administrations should not be doing what they're doing as well.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Long distance from back.
You made it. I'm surprised you made it.
So one of the key parts about authoritarianism is influence over elections. And we've seen that throughout the history of right-wing and left-wing, the right-wing side of this country has constantly been election deniers. Famously, Trump tried to find votes in Georgia to win the 2020 election. And now we're seeing that they're claiming voter fraud in the city of Los Angeles mayor's race.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many presidential elections in the last 20 years were denied by Democrats?
Were denied by Democrats?
Yeah, but mainstream members of Congress going on the floor,
Oh,
rejecting.
no. There's no way he's going to fucking try to do the semantics game here too. Really? The party of January 6th? He's going to be like, oh, there are claims in 2001, which was valid, by the way, that the election was stolen, ironically enough. That is a real election that was stolen. That's like an actual election that was stolen. It's never happened since. It's fucking bullshit. But regardless, if he turns around and says like, oh, well, Democrats complain when Republicans win, as though that's the same as like refusing to recognize the integrity of our elections, you're out of your fucking mind.
None.
All of them.
What?
Do you see?
What? Dude, the biggest issue was Al Gore conceded. What is this? After George W. Bush's 2000 victory, Al Gore pursued Florida recount litigation and conceded. That was the problem. It was stolen, and he should have never conceded. But even then, he conceded. Once the Supreme Court halted the recount in 2005, Senator Barbara Boxer and Rep. Stephanie Tubbs Jones made a formal objection to Ohio's electoral votes over alleged irregularities, which both chambers rejected after John Kerry had conceded. Following Trump's 2016 win, Hillary Clinton, Jimmy Carter, John Lewis, and other Democrats.
The Democratic Party trying to create an alternate slate of electors to actually try and overturn
that's a different
democratically
argument.
elected.
Certainly
that's not a different argument. Also, what does this have to do with authoritarianism? I don't even understand. Literally no comparison between liberals. If you were to ask me, I think liberals concede too much. Okay, like 2000, they should have fucking made a way bigger fuss. The Brooks Brothers riot is what did him in, you know what I mean?
For an argument, but no, that was in, I think that would have been 1960, but certainly not in the last 20 years. So we can completely agree Trump's efforts in 2020 were substantially different from, say, a handful of members of Congress and high-profile personalities.
Yeah, question is legitimacy primarily citing Russian interference and House members' attempted objections without Senate support. Clinton conceded on November 9th. So that is a ridiculous fact check. Hillary Clinton conceded literally the night of the election. It's fucking bullshit. There is no comparison to what Trump did. Okay, none. The only time where it was valid to demand a recount that was stopped through the Brooks Brothers riot, ironically enough, and also because of the initiative by Jeb Bush, at the time governor of Florida, was in 2000. That was a stolen election. There were actual real irregularities, the hanging chads, where, you know, Jewish neighborhoods in fucking Florida were voting for Pat Buchanan, I think, right? Or not Pat Buchanan. Was it Pat Buchanan? I think it was, right? Am I crazy? It was, right? Yeah, anyway, it was fucking ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was not, it was totally stolen.
Coming out and saying the election is illegitimate. But I will say, while it is not particularly mainstream, there actively are groups across social media that believe the election was stolen. Just go on Threads for a few minutes.
God, Threads.
You will see tons of progressives arguing the election was stolen.
Tons of bots. You know, I'm really big.
Wait, what do you mean tons of progressives argue that the election was stolen? Who gives a fuck, dude? What are you talking about? Give me a fucking prominent Democrat. Give me one fucking prominent Democrat that has actually ever seriously advanced the argument that the elections were stolen, ever. You can't even point to fucking Al Gore when the election was actually stolen because he conceded on the Supreme Court decision, even though he didn't agree with it. And he should have, in my opinion.
I think the real people, that's fine. I agree with the internet theory, actually.
So look, if you're talking about the right versus the left, overall, again, we are talking about the overall picture here. Where is the majority of this coming from?
Well, let me ask you a question. You mentioned California. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question. Let's say there's an election that takes place, and a ballot comes in 3 days after that election. It's signed with a picture of Mickey Mouse, and it's hand dated. Do you think that is a real vote?
So guess what? In California, when you don't have a correct signature, you can do this thing called ballot curing, where you take that ballot back to the voter and you say, is this really you? And you have to get that signature again.
But
in that
I
case,
asked you a
I
question.
don't think they registered with the Mickey Mouse signature.
Well, that's actually legal in California. In fact, the example given, I think, in Santa Barbara is a Kirby star image. Now, the challenge with this is, and that's why I'm not a fan of the fraud argument from Republicans. Just stop saying fraud. This is legal in California. In California, you can draw a picture of Kirby star in any manifestation.
Oh, God. Let me just address something here, okay? Something that I repeat all the fucking time. American elections are safe and secure. Regardless of what Republicans lie about, American elections are safe and secure. They have been endlessly investigated by Republicans, by bipartisan committees. The notion that American elections have high levels of irregularities is fucking bullshit. Okay? It's made up. It's completely made up. The fact check also presents that as well. The Santa Barbara Mickey Mouse signature claim traced to a rhetorical comment by a local Republican official about in-person polling place sign-in sheets, not evidence that a ballot with a cartoon signature was accepted. The same Santa Barbara GOP review ultimately found no voter fraud.
Now, the problem is signatures are supposed to be unique to an individual because they would be falsifiable. Meaning, I've never seen your signature before. How can I match it? But if you sign up, if you register to vote with a picture of Kirby, anyone in the world can draw that picture of Kirby. So in California, the challenge that
but not everybody has the same name, the same social security.
No, but the point is, if a ballot is received by a homeless shelter, anyone can fill it out and draw a picture of Kirby Star.
There's a limited number of ballots that get sent to registered voters who are registered with the state.
Well, it's
and go through a
universal mail-in
process.
voting. And for instance, there was a homeless shelter in Venice Beach that received 185 mail-in votes despite no one living there. And so,
yes, because
again,
people that live on the street have addresses registered to shelters because
completely
they don't have
agree.
anywhere else to get mail.
And so what we've already seen is undercover video showing that activists do go to places like Skid Row and secure voter registration, where in one video, a man who's clearly not a woman says his name is Teresa, sure, he'll fill it out. Now, the problem is that man will fill this out under the name Teresa. He will sign, he'll put an X, a mark, which is legal in California. The other issue is that ballots can be received, so it gets complicated, but in California, if a ballot is received before the election, it can be hand dated. If it's received after the election, it has to be post dated. However, a ballot can only be rejected if two independent officials can prove beyond a reasonable doubt it has violated one of these tenets. So I do take issue with Republicans saying voter fraud all the time when it's legal to do this in California. But I think if you go to a regular American and say, ask him this question, and I'll ask you this question:
What's the margin of victory for the Democrats in the state of California? Let's look. California presidential election result. In 2028, 58.5% of the state voted for the Democrat and 38.3% voted for the Republican. It was actually higher than 2020 for the Republican side. Okay. Or did I say 2028? I'm sorry. I meant 2024. Oops. I just admitted that the elections are stolen, and I'm giving you the future election. Okay. Let's see how many people voted, though. I want to see what the number is. I know you like the number. All right, let's take a look. Okay, what are the number? Okay, 2024, Kamala Harris running for president, right? 9.2 million votes, give or take. For Donald Trump, only 6 million votes. Okay? So the difference is 3.2 million votes. Is Tim Pool claiming that there are 3.2 million homeless people in the state of California that had the false registration of ballots? Is that what happened, Tim? They found 3.2 million fake ballots? Now, of course, these elections are unbelievably secure, and people, there's investigations conducted after the fact. So I don't know if Tim Pool thinks that there are 3.2 million false registered homeless people with Mickey Mouse signatures, but that would be fucking insane, don't you think? It is such a crazy argument. It is such a crazy argument that this would actually break elections altogether. Okay, there would be bedlam. There'd be riots in the fucking streets. It's ridiculous.
Thea Rahman surpassed Karen Bass, both Democrats, in mail-in votes only after Election Day.
Because...
Wait, what? No, I hate this argument. Oh my God, it's the dumbest argument. I hope this guy knows the answer to it, because young people vote late. Young people drop mail-in ballots in California, but late, closer to Election Day or on Election Day, myself included.
Young people vote later, and Thea Rahman won the young vote.
Well, the truth is that the DSA on their website advocates for ballot harvesting, which is legal, and they're allowed to do it, and more power to them. It's very smart.
So do the Republicans. They go to senior centers all across the country and get.
We're gonna pause here. You've been voted out.
Yeah. What? So they ballot harvested? What? Fucking ridiculous.
The majority. You can head
Good talking with you.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
No contest. Likewise.
Elections, as you were talking about the other person before, I think are sacred. I think elections are sacred, and I believe a fundamental thing to American values and democracy.
I just don't understand. There's so many more things that they could be talking about instead of elections as far as Trump's authoritarianism. Am I crazy? Am I wild? Like, why aren't they talking about like ICE murders, like unprosecuted ICE murders, Trump's crackdown on fucking free speech, Trump advancing the Project Esther and Project 2025. Big components of Project 2025 are obviously about, like, I think Tim kind of redirected the conversation back to elections, weirdly enough, when they should be talking about the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, NSPM 7, that has declared anyone and everyone that's a political dissident to be a terrorist potentially. You could talk about, you could talk about like abortion restrictions. I mean, there's so many different functions of the government that Donald Trump has greatly accelerated that is authoritarian. Yeah, expanding presidential immunity, like.
We have never seen, ever in American history, the attempt to subvert a free and fair election compared to how Donald Trump and his cronies did on January 6th. And I think that it's absolutely ridiculous to claim that that is somehow comparable to the Biden administration talking to Facebook and certain social media platforms to ban Donald Trump.
Fair.
When social media platforms...
Never mind. Fair take. I think that's a fair standard. If you are complaining about fucking Biden, if you are complaining about Joe Biden, like, cracking down on speech or whatever, but, like, you don't consider the January 6th shit to be, like, far more authoritarian, then it's, it's a problem.
Platforms have been under attack by Donald Trump as well. We had in Florida how the right now chair of the RNC is now pursuing legal action against Facebook, Twitter, etc., for banning Donald Trump, which was a decision that they made without Biden's interference.
Well, I don't think arguing like a civil litigation is it's hard to argue civil litigation as a big political issue. If there's a contract violation committed by a company and Trump wants to sue them, certainly if you have the opinion you don't believe that there you believe there's malice there.
It's the current RNC chair.
Right.
That's
My
like
argument is
pursuing like regulatory action against them for banning Donald Trump.
Right. So these are civil issues, and
Yes.
the challenge is, I don't know the facts. You don't know the facts.
You don't think civil issues can be political?
They certainly can. But the point I'm making is that sometimes companies do bad things, and we need regulatory bodies to go after them. I'm in favor of that. Now, the question is, are the Republicans bad for doing it? Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know the underlying issues of the case. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
So I'll bring up another instance. I mean, in Massachusetts, for example, we just had 2 Republicans who were running for attorney general and lieutenant governor who were literally faking signatures on their ballots.
Lock 'em up.
Literal dead people.
Yeah, lock 'em
who,
up.
And if you look at the papers, they're the same signature.
Against the cowardly South Korean government. Yeah, this is where I'm going to be at odds with the liberals. It's actually a unique predicament because actually this is probably good for South Korea as well. This is one of those instances where Donald Trump is like low-key not the worst on as far as like moving or advancing in the direction of normalizing relations with Korea, normalizing relations between South Korea and North Korea. He did this last time around as well, and I defended it. I wish he would normalize relations with Cuba. But this is a solid move. The real dude, you want to hear something crazy? Donald Trump has been far better on the Korea issue than Biden was. As a matter of fact, the fake coup d'etat, one could even say, happened under the watchful gaze of the Brandonian administration. Donald Trump, bar none, out of all of our contemporary presidents, is probably one of the best on the Korea issue. And I don't know if it's because he just like loves Kim Jong-un or something. I don't know what the fuck it is. But low-key, this is the one area where I, haven't criticize him as much. As a matter of fact, I've defended when people ask me like, oh, what did you back in the day in Trump 1, people would always ask me, what is like one good policy of Donald Trump? I would always say Korea. Because a big part of the reason why, I mean, regardless of the internal dynamics, the domestic policies in South Korea, and regardless of the military action that Trump actually took in North Korea, if you remember, I think in Trump 1, they sent like Delta Force or something, and they just like slaughtered a bunch of Korean fishermen. It was disgusting. And that information leaked about that operation. It was really fucked up. But outside of that, as far as like the broader, allowing South Korea and North Korea to communicate with one another without American intervention, and also restricting the military operations in the Korean Peninsula, that was actually good. That was unironically a real move by the American government in the direction of a far better peaceable negotiation between DPRK and South Korea. On the one hand, they put the THAADs there in Trump 1, which actually destroyed South Korea's relationship with China at the time. So that wasn't good. On the other hand, this time around, Donald Trump took the THAADs, which then the South Korean government got pissed off about because they were like, well, what the fuck? We lost billions of dollars in economic activity and trade from China because you put these THAADs here and then you took them away from us without us having a single say in the matter. Why did we lose billions of dollars of trade from China if you're going to take the THAADs away from us so you can panic ship them to Israel? So Trump giveth and Trump taketh. That is the art of the steal. That is the art of the deal. Okay? But reducing military activity in the Korean Peninsula is always a good thing because it allows South Korea and North Korea to deal with one another as peers. Okay? That's why, ironically enough, Biden, who ran on, normalizing international rule-based order and all that shit, kind of fucked it. Kind of fucked it pretty hard. Both with Israel, but then even with South Korea. Because if you recall, when Biden was president, South Korea had a incel psychopathic president who facilitated a fake coup d'etat, tried to do a coup d'etat, if you remember, and then the people got really mad and then they stormed the fucking parliament and, democracy thrived that day. That was a day where liberalism actually defended against authoritarian initiatives. It was kind of crazy. That fake coup could not have been facilitated without the Biden administration's watchful gaze. And part of the reason why I'm saying that is because the Biden administration did not communicate their criticisms of the president at the time and their initiatives. It was crazy. They didn't say a single damn thing about it, which leads me to believe that they were probably not upset about it, I guess. I don't know what their calculation for Korea was. I'll be honest. I don't know what Biden's calculation was. Giving a bone to China because they're saving oil markets. It's a mix with America lacking any carries in East Asia. Could be a retreat from the Asian pivot. Oh, no, it is. Yes. I already told you guys this. The Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Persia is where the dreams of American saber rattling against China died. Okay? That Beijing summit was the end. It's over. Anyone that doesn't recognize how over the Asia-Pacific theater is delusional. Okay? The quote-unquote pivot to Asia that started under the Obama administration, it's done. It is done. Okay? It's done. And it's really funny that it's happening at a time when Japan, which is the number one op of China in that region, but also the number one trade partner, is becoming increasingly more militant against China and talking about potentially building their self-defense forces, which is unconstitutional, according to the Japanese constitution, talking about building their industrial base for defense. Talk about making the worst bet of all time. Talk about making the worst bet of all time, where America is forced to retreat from the region when you are completely, when America's killing its Asia pivot. Japan is like, no, we got this, dude. We'll fucking take over Taiwan if necessary. That was, when I was in China, that was the talk of the town. If you remember, when I was visiting China, when I was traveling through China, Takaichi came out and said, we will defend Taiwan with military force if necessary. That is a major no-no. Not because, like, you know, obviously the People's Republic has ambitions for unification, peaceful reunification, or maybe even militarily unifying across the Taiwanese Strait. But that also was a somber reminder of Japanese imperial fascism, because they occupied Taiwan. So they were basically saying, like, we're going to occupy Taipei again. That's the way that it was read by the Chinese government, by the mainland. That was a massive fuck up of diplomacy. So the fact that Takaichi is going further and further right and engaging in more jingoistic sentiment against China at a time when America is retreating from the Asia pivot is very funny. I don't know where it goes. I think Japanese Japanese politics is probably going to change dramatically as well in the next decade or so, because they have nothing. Because if you think about it, I mean, aside from their economies, these places are basically holdover states for American military to, like, launch campaigns if they want to. So the Japanese economy is fucked. The yen is imploding. And also on top of that, they're taking a more right-wing position. It's unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable. Japan loves surprises. True. They do love surprises. But Japan also notoriously, even if I disagree with what America did here, Japan also notoriously has received tremendous blowback for said surprises. So if I was Japan, I wouldn't be moving in this dangerous direction. That's all I'm saying. 4 top officials from Japan's ruling party will be visiting the Yasukuni Shrine tomorrow. Prime Minister Takaichi is expected to avoid the shrine for diplomatic reasons, but the LDP Secretary General, General Council Chair, this is the war crime one, right? An election strategy committee chair will make a group visit. These are all important politicians that Takaichi picked the top posts for in the party. Local media reports that individual visits by politicians are common, but a group visit by top party executives like this is rare. It seems that Takaichi wants to communicate to conservative voters that her party supports the shrine, even if she won't personally visit on the 15th. The Yasukuni Shrine is diplomatically problematic because it enshrines Imperial Japan's war dead, including World War II leaders who were executed as Class A war criminals after the war. Yasukuni's museum does not describe World War II as a war of aggression and treats wartime leaders such as Tojo as martyrs. In the past, the United States, South Korea, and China have protested when prime ministers visit the shrine. Takaichi has previously visited the Yasukuni Shrine on many occasions. Before becoming prime minister, she said, if I were ever to become the leader of Japan, I would like to continue visiting. I feel very strongly about this. Even if the prime minister does not visit, it is likely she will have someone send an offering on her behalf. Dude, Takaichi psycho, and it's so crazy because, like, Japanese society broadly loves him. Like, the Japanese youth love him because they find her to be, like, so cute and so youthful. It is such, dude, I don't even want to talk about Japanese politics. It really fucks me up. Anyway, let's just move on from Japanese politics. I don't know how the fuck we got here. God, I'm so much more invested in this conversation than fucking watching Tim Pool talk about how Trump is not authoritarian. Anyway, Japanese politics is very chuddy. Yes. Japan and Iran are two nations with autism in very different ways, okay? 2 autistic nations, but like very different kinds of autism. I would go so far as to say China is also a very autistic nation, but also a different kind of autism, maybe closer to the Iranian style of autism. The Islamic Republic of Japan. Anyway, Trump says he ordered Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce joint U.S.-South Korea diplomatic military exercises, citing his relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and calling the drills hostile. Trump says he's helping North Korea because South Korea refused to join his failed war against Iran. Yeah, this is a dumb reason, but the real reason, it's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. Okay, but that's Trump. He's going to fucking say whatever dumb fuck reason he has. But the real point behind this is probably throwing a bone to PRC, to China, and also allowing South Korea and North Korea to normalize relations amongst themselves, which is not a bad thing. That is a good thing. Okay. The reason that he's bringing up is fucking stupid, and I don't even trust him on that. I don't think that's the reason why he's doing it. Because he was like this last time around as well, weirdly enough. Dude, imagine in our lifetime, Korea reunification in our lifetime under Trump would be insane. It's probably not going to happen, but why do you always want Europe to be sovereign, but Japanese sovereignty is bad? How dare a small island nation that's not Cuba try to protect their sovereignty against a much larger neighbor? Wait, what? When did I say I don't want Japanese sovereignty? What are you talking about? Japan is basically a fucking cum sleeve for America. What the fuck? Are you joking? Also, doing small bean Japan is crazy. What is the argument that you're trying to make? Are you saying that Japan reoccupying Taipei would be good for Taiwanese liberation or something? Is that the argument you're making? Did you forget what Japan did? Do you know what Japan did? Let's start there. Do you know what Japan did during World War II? Are you familiar? Because they were doing their own Holocaust in China. They were also occupying China, including Taipei. Colonial occupation. They did a Holocaust in China. I want every country to have sovereignty, and I want every country to have whatever kind of trade relations that they want to have with other nations, whether they are considered foreign adversaries of the United States of America or not, doesn't fucking matter to me. You just want world peace now? That's simple? Yes. Anyway, based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States of America, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, and based on the fact that it is too late to cancel, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Japan, not Iran, but Japan. And they said, no thanks. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I hope liberals don't eat debate on this, which is probably not going to happen because they get really mad about this shit. They'll say, oh, this is a betrayal of our allies. But it's not. I don't know what the current South Korean government's attitude is, but I suspect it's far better in terms of normalizing relationships, because it was like Moon was doing that. And then it's Moon and then Yoon, right? The incel was not. The incel was like super right-wing and far more reactionary about the dealings with North Korea. And then this new guy is also the new guy is also woke, or in comparison to Yoon, obviously. What's also crazy about this, sorry if this is a stupid question, but how can Japan do genocide against China when it's nowhere near China's population? Wait, what? What do you mean? They were an industrial force that were attacking a country that was largely colonized by other powers and were slaughtering the peasant population. They slaughtered more than 20 million people. But yeah, South Korea 1 day ago proposes talks to officially end war with North. Okay, see, this is what I mean. This is liberals taking the bait. Yeah, South Korea's president has proposed talks with its northern neighbor to officially end the war between the two that's technically still active. Lee Jae-myung suggested a multi-layered security system to avoid flare-ups along the country's de facto border. I think that I think that this is good, and I understand that this is partially because of Trump's fuck-ups for sure. But this decision by Donald Trump is not bad. It's a good thing. Yeah, not just China. Japan killed people in South Korea too. Oh yeah. And then there's the comfort women scandal. I mean, Japan is the Nazi Germany of the region. I don't know how else to describe it. Like they did unbelievable amounts of violence in the region. Joseon, not South Korea. Yeah, hell on earth. You said Holocaust, not genocide. Yes, what they did was basically another mechanized, like they had concentration camps. They had like similar experiments that they conducted, like Mengele style experiments that Unit 731 conducted on the Chinese population. Like the reason why I don't shy away from making that comparison is because I think most people would recognize that comparison to be apt. Yeah, the rape of Nanking is one of the most horrific massacres in history. It's just like not, because it's China, it doesn't get a lot of coverage, especially here in the Western world, but it's still a very real wound that Japan chooses not to recognize. And it wasn't just China. They did it all across Asia, which is why it's so crazy that for most Americans' perspectives, Japan is this like kawaii country. Whereas if you look at like some of these other countries, like China, for example, literally rides for the nukes. They love that America dropped the sun twice on Japan. Like they straight up will tell you that. Those are like there's two common positions in China that, you know, I consider to be, you know, I understand where they're coming from. I just don't agree with it. It's like their love for Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon makes sense. And also Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they ride for it. What's up with China loving Kissinger? What do you mean? They fucking recognize the PRC and unrecognize the KMT, unrecognize the ROC. That's huge. There's no People's Republic. There's no modern China without that move. Ultimately, this is a good thing, though. And as U.S. is pulling its last aircraft carrier in Asia as Trump focuses on Iran in the Western Hemisphere. Oh, yeah, this is the Chinese Sino-Japanese war, right? Isn't this it? I can't wait for this game. I can't wait to play this game. This game looks fire. I suspect that this is probably going to feature the first element of the Sino-Japanese war, like the Japanese occupation. This game will probably come out in multiple series, including the best part, which I don't think this game is going to feature like the revolution, right? I assume like it's not going to, but there probably will be one later down the line. The Defiant. Oh, this is not the same game. It's 14 Years of Flames you wanted to play? Oh, it's a different one. Damn, they're really doing a push. Remember when I told you, as soon as Xi Jinping in the annual State of the Nation said, he brought up Wukong by name, Labubus by name, and Neja by name. I told you that they were going to do more soft power. They were going to do more like, you know, cultural products that they ship out to the West. I guess they're doing it now. This year, they're making a much larger push for, you know, cultural artifacts that you can consume. This is the one I was thinking of. 14 Years of Flames. Yeah, this one is, I think this one's even better. Can you please turn it off? I'm getting flashbacks of the Second Sino-Japanese War. Okay, chatter. It is like OG COD. I mean, look, I love this shit. It's the same reason why I love Wukong as well, because like there's so much untapped novel IP in China. There is so much, like so many stories that the Western world is just like completely oblivious to. It's all novel. It's all new, which is why I think it's awesome. It's just like automatically is going to be unlike anything we've ever consumed before. Oh, this is the Unit 731 room. Yeah, this is where they find the... What's really interesting is how they will portray the KMT forces. Because it's interesting because, like, you know, a lot of these battles were being fought in unison alongside both the KMT and the communist forces, right? So it's interesting how they will... I wonder how they will portray it. Like, will there be like will they do two different campaigns, like the nationalist campaign and then the communist campaign? Watch the war movies where they have KMT in it. I haven't watched any of the war movies with KMT in it, so I don't know. This ain't World at War, buddy. No, because by the end of the revolution, most KMT soldiers with PLA probably won't be too harsh on them. I wonder if they just like glorify or will act like it was all, you know, it's all technically under the PLA umbrella or something. No, probably not.
所以死了，一切意义都没了。我们的追求一致，过上舒服的生活，不是吗？健康满足。如今的繁荣与进步，我们的都是亚细亚同胞，共保和平，才能共荣大东亚。
I have no idea what the fuck he's saying.
周队长已经加入了我们。赵兄弟，要是不嫌弃，就请来担任王协军队长。今天晚上，我们得先去喝两杯，然后。
On the translate, okay, fucking calm down, okay? Calm down. The Steam page says it will follow 6 different characters through all 14 years of the war. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Are you even trying to learn Mandarin? No, shut up, shut up, shut up. I want to. I want to. The United States literally took surrendered Japanese soldiers in China and recruited them to fight against the communists. I don't know if they're gonna have kill streaks. I can't wait for you to not play it. I will 100% play this game. Are you insane? I will 100%. I play Wukong. I'll play this game for sure.
Same person, this third party that they hired, who was literally didn't have the same exact handwriting, and they tried
lock them up.
Thousands of signatures across Massachusetts were then considered moot because they were literal dead people from all across the state, and those are 2 Republicans. Right. And you have, I mean, there are countless instances of Republicans, not just Donald Trump, trying to subvert American elections, and I think that is one of the most authoritarian things that anybody in this country can do is to subvert the free and fair elections of the United States.
I think certainly that we have a problem with 2 ancient political parties. I think the real big picture is here, and I'm not saying this to dismiss your anger over what these Republicans did. You're certainly warranted to believe that. I agree. I think they should go to jail for that stuff. The problem is both political parties are playing this procedural game of trying to steal elections through through procedure instead of convincing people. The Republicans are redistricting in all of these different states to give themselves.
January 6th was procedure.
I'm talking right now about both parties. Certainly January 6th was a riot and it was very, very bad. We can agree on those things. I'm saying that both parties have these procedural efforts to increase their ability to win elections. Right now Republicans are redistricting
I fundamentally disagree with that because Republicans were the ones that voted against a bill to ban gerrymandering federally in the United States. Republicans were the ones that
being nothing. That's as bad as a bunch of people storming the Capitol. That's terrifying and substantially worse. Physical violence. But yeah, I think if you look back at the history of this country going back decades, it would be a bit naive to say that the political parties aren't doing everything in their power to steal power from each other.
Again, so I mean, I don't want to pivot to Mueller, which in fact also.
But also, we shouldn't get caught up in being like Republicans are bad because Republicans are bad.
When Mueller passed away, rest in peace, an American hero, Donald Trump literally said, "I'm glad he's dead."
That's awful.
And he no longer can hurt innocent people.
I know.
So like again, another instance of Republicans, I would consider threats against people like that authoritarian.
Throw him out there. When he said that, I said it was disgusting. I mean, that's horrifying. But it doesn't change the fact that Bernie Sanders had the election taken away from him illicitly. I think in 2016, I was fervent for Bernie. He was talking about securing borders because the Koch brothers, industrialists, wanted to bring in cheap labor. He was talking about getting better wages for the working class, supporting unions. And I said, this is the only guy who's been speaking to issues for the past 20 years that actually matter to working class American people. And what did the Democratic, absolutely, and what did the Democratic Party do? They used superdelegates to make sure he could not win.
Okay, so first off, I'm a big fan of Bernie myself, so I guess it's something you could agree on there. I will say that if you as a supporter of Donald Trump, I find it kind of ironic that you believe in anything closely related to Bernie Sanders. I'll give you a few examples.
9 million people who are Democrats voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
Yeah, and I also say 3 million, millions of people, I think it was a couple million in West Virginia, your state, that voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary and then had to switch to Donald Trump. I criticized my own party for that, and I think that was wrong. My point is not that the Democratic Party has never, ever, ever used something or participated, I would say, in bad faith in elections. My point is that we see consistently from Republicans, consistently over and over again.
Parties.
Again, I think that's both parties are all bad. You literally had Donald Trump try to subvert the free and fair election.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Good talking with you, man.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, you're not going to have me defending the Democratic Party. I mean,
let's go.
I feel like a lot of people,
and I don't want to defend Republicans
we're moving towards fascism on both sides. I do want to bring up 2 unique things that Trump has done that no one has ever done in the United States.
I'm gonna keep it $1.50. This is 2 for 2. I mean, Tim Pool's a fucking idiot, and he's wrong. and his prompts are wrong. Having said all of that, I haven't seen enough like major dunks so far. Like it's like it's kind of remarkable how he like is capable of holding his own in a way that I've never seen from other like in a way that's not as bad as like Dave Rubin, right? Like I think he just has this way of presenting himself as a liberal, and he's kind of like he kind of goes unnoticed for the most part, so people don't know what he's doing, what he said, right? So they don't know that he's lying. Like they don't know that he's lying. He lies about the data. He concedes on a bunch of stuff that he does not concede on when he's on his own show. So it's been it's hard to pin him down. He's Weasley. He's actually very Weasley. It's kind of crazy. And it's also partially hard to pin him down because most people don't know his takes, right? I don't think any of these guys like know most of his takes because who the fuck cares about Tim Pool, you know?
It's history. So 2 is suing a pollster for a poll he didn't like in the state of Idaho. And I think the biggest issue is the Israel issue. Yeah. So you have someone like Trump who, sold TikTok to Larry Ellison, and he also owns CBS News.
Oh, yeah. Paramount entirely.
Right. I think we both agree that's just not good, where you give someone a media apparatus, and a social media apparatus like TikTok. And then
these things worry me for sure. Okay. I think where we're going to agree with like Democrat and Republicans is the issue of Israel particularly.
Yes.
Do they? Like, really? Am I crazy? Do they? 49 state landslide? I don't think they do. I think he's just lying. I think he's just straight up like, yeah, none of these fucking guys know anything about me. So I can just feel very comfortable about what I'm saying and doing. Because like he took very different... he said 49 states. He did not say 50 states. Do not lie about Tim Pool's position. He said 49 states. He did not say 50. I forget which state he argued would not go to Trump. Is he grifting to the left? No, he's just a weasel. Like he knows that people don't know his positions at all. So he just gets to present himself as like a moderate. I assume, and I guess maybe Mason could maybe Mason could speak on this. Like, did they present this as like you're debating Tim Pool, or did they say you're going to debate a moderate Republican? Or just like a political moderate? Because I don't know if they reveal who you're going to debate ahead of time, right? So like if they do, I've never done one of these. But if they tell you ahead of time, or if they told you like it was that Tim Pool was going to be, or they were going to debate a political moderate, maybe that's the reason why people didn't know.
If we're talking about authoritarianism, this is why I say, like, don't make me defend Republicans. Like, there's some things I will, but the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, I feel like, as an establishment, largely align with each other, and then there are these like lesser issues that divide. And I think when you look at TikTok, when you look, I'll tell you this: the TikTok was sold explicitly because of Israel.
Right.
So the story is this. Initially, Republicans were very mad about TikTok because it seemed to promote progressive content, progressive ideology. Republicans had been banned. People who supported Trump had been banned. So the Republicans come out and say, we got to ban TikTok. We can't do this. Democrats said no. But then something changed. After October 7th, we saw the rise of conduct critical of Israel and supportive of Palestine. Yes. All of a sudden, the Democrats are like, you know what, now we agree with Republicans and we've got to ban TikTok. And then Trump comes out and says, no, we're not going to ban it, which he does not have the authority to do. The bill was passed. It was signed by the president. When Trump came in office, he was supposed to initiate that ban. But instead, what did he do? He sold it to a supporter of his to change the...
What are you talking about? That was literally the purpose of the Democratic forced transfer as well. The Democrats were not going to like de facto ban TikTok. They were just trying to sell it to someone like the Ellisons.
Structure of that content to benefit his worldview, which does align largely with many establishment Democrats.
Yeah, I agree. And, you have him sanctioning the ICC, the prosecutors. I mean, this is the fascism we're talking.
Again, not the best point to make. It's not like Brandon was favorable to the ICC. They did embrace authoritarianism a little bit there in a very Trumpian manner. No, like they didn't. I guess the thing that Brandon did, he didn't like unwind the sanctions. Did he unwind the sanctions? I don't think he did, right? I think they just continued it for the most part. Or was there talk about the ICC being good because Vladimir Putin was being prosecuted? So.
About. So when you have, Russia and China that don't want to participate in the Western system, this is why. Then you have France, that's trying to get away from the tech companies because our own politicians in those that legislation, they put that that any country that has these databases will be forced to give the data to them.
I think if it is not a singular issue of Donald Trump. Like clearly the Democratic Party joined in the cheering on of the banning of TikTok because of this content. And so I think that just shows that we've got an authoritarian problem in this, elite circle of whatever the military industrial complex or big banks and all of these, wealthy groups. They're interested in similar things.
No, yeah.
Is he trying to present himself sincerely as a moderate to like a new audience or something? Is that what's going on? For me, I never even thought about this as him being a moderate at all because he's just not, and he's just fucking lying. And I thought that was almost like a joke, but maybe that's why this prompt is the Democratic Party has embraced authoritarianism. And then he's like also claiming that, don't make me defend the Republicans. It's like, what do you mean? You love defending the Republicans.
We're going to
That's all you
pause
do.
here. You've been voted out by the majority. You can return to
Well,
your
we
chair.
got a little bit. Nice meeting you.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey,
nice to meet you.
Gotta say, I'm not a fan of either party, to be honest.
Let's go.
Same boat as you on that one.
Yeah.
The left embracing authoritarianism. Right now, that they don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House, they don't have a majority in the Supreme Court. If these guys are authoritarian, they're the crappiest authoritarians I have ever seen. They got to go back to authoritarian school and learn how to be authoritarians.
Well, or how to win. Right, losing, you can still be an authoritarian. Like Nazis lose power, but they're still Nazis.
Well, they're losing. They're losing at all levels. They're losing everywhere.
The Republicans crushed them. And
he looks Turkish, but he sounds a little bit Australian. I wonder if he's a Turkish Australian. No, he's not Turkish. I wonder if he's just like a Aussie that lives in America for like the last couple of decades, and he like lost his accent a little bit.
Doesn't mean they're authoritarians, though.
Well, no, I mean you can be an authoritarian and lose, right?
Okay, so there's 3 actual elements that we need.
Actually, he could be Turkish. Oh my God. Türk değil adamın adı Bayan. Bayan da Türk ismi olabilir.
Need to talk about authoritarianism. One is dismantling of institutions. One is
you guys can't fucking hear the Aussie accent. I can't believe it. He straight up has like a Aussie accent, but it's almost completely gone. Bayan diye Türk adı var amına koyayım. Yani bayan kadın bilmiyorum.
Eliminating your opponent and suspending elections.
Those are very specific claims to some authoritarians.
I haven't seen elements. Who's that person again? I forget. Oh, right. It was the same guy who weaponized the DOJ against all his political opponents or deployed the National
No Kiwi nor Aussie. I mean, dude, come on.
Guard to beat down on protesters, deploy ICE to Tamils in our communities, or launch the SAVE Act to try and just put voter suppression tactics in place so we could steal an election. Imprison us for 10 years for marching down the streets. Or tell the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. I'm ready to mobilize you to launch another.
He's not. He's Australian. He has that Elon South African. No, he's Australian, man. He could literally be an Aussie Turk, straight up. I think he's a Youper. What gives? I clocked his shit. What's his name? Someone said they have his Instagram.
Sir,
insurrection. Let's go,
if you'd like a soapbox,
who was that guy again? I forgot. Who was that guy?
If you'd like a soapbox, we can set one up for you. But if you want to have a conversation, I'm sitting right here.
Go for it. I think the position is indefensible, but I'd love to hear your take. Go for it.
Well, you're allowed to not like Trump. He's done a lot of bad things. Thank you.
Masudi.
Now, we were talking about the Democratic Party, the things they've done, and I think, and I'm not saying this derisively, but I think there's many things that you're ignorant of the Democratic.
Oh, his last name is Masudi. He's not Turkish. He's Australian. He's from Perth. I was right. Suck my dick. And he's not. Can't be Turks banned from Australia since Gallipoli. Okay, you're wrong about that. He is. Yeah, maybe. Is Masudi Lebanese or is it Iranian? No, he could be. He could be Lebanese, but that tie is so Iranian. Let's see. What last name is Masudi? Last name. Arabic origin, Middle East and Iran. Okay, so it could be North Africa, Middle East, or Iran. He's Iranian. Masood is a famous last name in both Iran and Afghanistan. Yeah, he's probably Iranian. But that tie looks so Iranian. I'm sorry. Like that tie is not Lebanese coded. Lebanese people are too gay to ever wear a tie like that. Okay? Debate's so boring. We're doing race science.
Party has done. You talk about suppression of their political opponent. Well, yeah, they sued so that Trump could not run for office. They tried to claim he was an insurrectionist. He was ineligible. He was arrested several times. They arrested his lawyers. Now, by all means, every authoritarian makes the argument they're justified in their use of authoritarian tactics to remove their political opponents. That doesn't change the idea, or I should say the philosophy behind what they're doing. So if you want to accuse Jenna Ellis, for instance, of doing something wrong because she drafted a letter arguing on Trump's behalf, that's authoritarianism. By all means, you can say she was wrong to do it. She's a criminal. But we are seeing when you start going after people's lawyers.
I'm bored. Okay, yes. Claim.
Towards a civil war.
If you'd like to be the first debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Come on, Mason.
Welcome back.
A peak of civil unrest in this country, and in all honesty, I'm going to blame people like you. This entire time, you've been trying to blur the line between what separates you and a person like me and everybody in the circle. Okay. The truth is, you don't agree.
Like, here's the problem. It's not like he's winning the debate. It's just he's not losing it. Does that make sense? And that's why it's not as like fun. He doesn't win the debate, but he also doesn't like aggressively lose it either, unless you're already knowledgeable about the issues that he's trying to present or knowledgeable about his background. You're like, I don't know what my takeaway would look like if I was just watching this from afar. I want to see the Mason part. So here's the thing. I don't know what the average uninitiated person's takeaway would be with Tim Pool. Like, I don't know if they would believe that he's a moderate or something. But you just skipped it? No, I didn't.
Please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back.
Damn.
Good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
Yeah.
First time we talked about this was in 2019, so it's been quite a while.
I think it was
since
before
you've
that,
been calling
actually.
for civil war.
I've never called for civil war.
Or not calling for, I'm sorry, said that we're on
Important
the brink of civil war.
And what was the citation I had for when I said that?
I would love you to
It was
tell
The
me.
Atlantic.
Okay.
And it was a journalist who interviewed several national security experts who said that there is a range of opinions in the national security space that the U.S. is trending towards a civil war. Notably, that when you cite people like Stephen Marsh, journalist, as well as Barbara F. Walter, former CIA, the U.S. academics describe the period that we're in as civil strife, meaning there's a criteria of death that has occurred for political reasons over the past year or years, for which the next phase would be civil war. However, tracking towards it, I've not said that it will happen, although there have been many people who have said that we are in a cold civil war or some kind of cultural civil war. I always caveat, because I don't actually have a strong prediction.
First of all, you do have a strong prediction if you've been saying this since 2019. There's 42.
Reading articles about
people
it,
can look this up. There's 42 of your titles that have the word civil war in it with big fonts on the front.
They sure do.
So why is that? It's sensationalist. It's easy to get clicks on that. There's a reason why you say it, because it's very profitable for your business.
Not necessarily.
But
we have 1,600 episodes of just.
There comes a point where people stop taking your prediction seriously.
Are you going to make an argument, or are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
Okay, then let's make an argument about whether or not we are tracking. No. If you're making an argument, you don't like my thumbnails, or you should say my name.
I'm saying that you say bullshit in order to get money. But what I really think is
let me ask you a
the
question.
predictions.
Let me ask you a question you can't answer.
I will agree with you that there's increased polarization. I would attribute a lot of that to people being specifically online.
Let me ask.
There's a lot less interaction with people that are in different camps.
Let me ask you a question.
But you're going to sit here and tell me that we're way more polarized than Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, who like shot each other with their disagreements? You're going to tell me that Andrew Jackson, who's the sitting president,
do you want to have a conversation, or are you just going to be angry? Why was Aaron
Polarization?
Danielson shot in the chest twice?
Sorry?
Why was Aaron Danielson shot in the chest
I'm
twice?
not disagreeing that political violence is
Answer
taking
the
place
question.
in
You say
Tim
Alexander
Pool.
Hamilton and Aaron Burr, but then when I ask you a question about an assassination, you defer.
You can say that
Let me
there's
ask you a
civil
question.
war every fucking year and it doesn't happen. And
I
you're gonna
never
say,
said
it just
there
hasn't
was.
happened yet.
Let me ask you a
Or
question.
if it does happen, you say, see, I've had it all
Let me
along.
ask you a
You
question.
are the same thing as like the
Let me
Christian rapture
ask you
people
a
who say
question.
that the rapture's coming every fucking year.
Are
and when
you-
it doesn't happen, it's
do you want a
like, oh, it's just not
soapbox?
happening.
Do you want me to get you a
I'm just saying,
soapbox?
it's really
I can leave.
easy.
He hit the soapbox thing twice, by the way. I didn't even realize he hit the soapbox thing earlier in the debate as well. Wow, cool meta for Timothy Pool here.
Easy to
You want
like
me to
do
leave?
what you do.
You want me to
It's really easy to do what you do. Like you literally just say, the Civil War is happening next year. Civil War is happening next year. It's coming. Make sure you subscribe to Timcast. Continue to watch my videos, please. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. It's easy to do what you do, bro.
She did not like that at all. Damn, Mason, you pulled out the beanie on the Beanie Boy. You busted out the beanie.
Nobody's actually had a debate yet. Are we going to actually talk about whether it will or will not happen? I mean, sounds like it's gonna.
All right. If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Nice to meet you. Hey, nice to meet you.
I think we are being constantly fueled by the people that are already in charge, that are up on top, that are already wealthy, and that already have power over the entire government. Donald Trump has 8 billionaires in his administration, including himself. You see his sons profiting, you see his friends profiting, you see everyone in close ties with him profiting. They're not going to give up this power. I don't think we're on the verge of a civil war. I think we're due for a revolution. Well, and I hope that's peaceful. I hope that's not violent. I hope we change.
This is fantastic. No, I appreciate this. Can I ask you some questions? Yeah. Do you believe that Donald, and I'm not trying to accuse you of believing this, but do you think that Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that there are Nazis in his administration?
In his administration? Few. Yeah.
Do you think that how do you feel about them using the military to go after undocumented migrants in this country?
I think it is an unnecessary use of force.
Like, the argument is so crazy. Your chat cooks my laptop battery. Stop it. The argument is so crazy because, like, these are prompts that make no sense. But to us, they make no sense because, like, Tim Pool has constantly claimed that America's on the verge of a civil war. But, like, none of these have anything to do with his defense of Donald Trump. So I think he tried to expertly pull a fast one on the Jubilee guys and tell the Jubilee guys that he's a moderate or something. And the Jubilee guys didn't do their due diligence, or they're just content brained. So they just let him get away with these prompts. Like, it doesn't, like, this is not really a debate. Like, the first one was a little bit more of a debate because the first claim was, the mainstream left commits more violence than the mainstream right. Like, it's bullshit, and he's trying to do a semantics argument. But even the second claim where he says the Democratic Party's embrace authoritarianism, he literally is not saying the Republicans haven't. He's just saying that the Democrats have, right? Skip to Charlie. I don't know which one is Charlie. Oh, this is Charlie. Oh, it's Sniz. The person who debated the Ulick Sniz guy. Okay, let's see how she does.
To incentivize. Okay, so the whole thing about civil.
I shouldn't refer to her as Sniz, but you know what I mean. I didn't mean it like that. Enemy Charlie on Twitch. Fuck. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's such a pivotal moment. That is not how this person should be remembered. They're great. Okay, they're great. It just. Oh no, I condemn myself. Oh Jesus, she gonna start calling you 9/11? I mean, fair, valid, fair.
war is that I do think that you need some sort of.
What the fuck sniz means? I hope someone reply to me maybe. Okay, so this is Enemy Charlie. They're a Twitch streamer and they do debates. And one of the most viral moments of the guy, Andrew Wilson, who we watched get fucking destroyed by Candace Owens yesterday. One of the most viral moments is that guy debating Enemy Charlie and getting so flustered when Charlie turns around and says, like, you talk a big game about being, you know, living this like trad lifestyle, but you know, your wife has like 7 baby. Your wife has like, you know, 7 previous relationships and like has children with numerous people. And then he gets so flustered. Charlie answered your question. Contestants didn't know who would be debating until we showed up. So imagine everyone's shocked when Tim Pool's the moderate. This show was also pitched as 1 moderate versus 20 progressives, and they create. Okay, yeah, that's what I was suspecting as well. The idea that these people seemed like kind of not ready for Tim Pool at all. Anyway, where's the clip? Here, I'll just show you the clip.
So, Andrew, can I sell you on my worldview?
Yes.
Your wife has 3 baby daddies and has been married twice before.
And you
Yeah, okay, this is like meme-ified, but he turns around and goes, "Yeah, well, you like sniz." And it's a incredibly viral moment because he gets so flustered, he gets so angry, he's so aggressively called out here, so aggressively clocked that his retort in that moment is, "Well, you lick sniz." That's why I called her the snizzler.
Leadership, you know, that is being financially disenfranchised to incentivize a civil war. And we don't really have any strong progressive leaders in office currently that are being meaningfully financially disenfranchised the way slavers were. So
but
I
you,
think
you,
that...
you don't. That's the challenge. I think.
Yes, that is absolutely, yes. That
you
is
don't.
the,
If you take a look at civil wars throughout history, we can use the Syrian civil war as an example. It started with a dozen or so disparate factions, largely of locals and various ideologies that.
How did Mason know to pull out the beanie then? That's actually a good question. That's why I wanted to ask Mason if he knew ahead of time or not. You know what I mean?
Ultimately coalesced around one group, either the Free Syrian Army, but then ultimately got taken over.
Right, sure,
Civil
but the
wars
thing
can
is
be
that,
fomented through small factions that bubble up.
Certainly, but I think that you are vastly overestimating the, you know, kind of militant capacity of the American left. Like, we truly do not have like a far left in the US that would be willing to take up arms. It is so small. Furthermore, I do think that technology-wise, it's not, you know, it's not an even battle anymore. Like, the military, the US military, which is largely conservative and currently, you know, Trump is in charge of them, the technology that they have to track, surveil, to remotely kill people would be absurd. I mean, I guess we could do some sort of guerrilla warfare, but this is American territory. It wouldn't go down like Vietnam, you know? Like, we know where we are, we know where we're going. It
so
just...
this is a fantastic point, by the way, and this gets into what's known as the generations of warfare.
Okay.
So the earliest generation of warfare, obviously, is a guy punching a guy. As we got into, you know, the 1700s, well, maybe even before then.
That's an awesome soundbite. Obviously, everybody knows the earliest generation of warfare is just a guy punching a guy. Obviously. Brilliant. Oh, man. He's so awesome. Yeah, this video sucks. I'm sorry. What is this?